Chapter 9, 51. Puff, 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 puff. After the Yuan Qi barrier shattered, the terrifying shock wave mercilessly ravaged Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, and the others. In a hurry, Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, and the others had no way to resist. At the entrance of the passage, Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, and the others each spurted out a mouthful of red blood, and their peak aura was instantly reduced by half. Crash! The explosion came quickly, and it dissipated quickly as well. Only 4 or 5 minutes later, the aftermath of the evil dragon Venerable's explosion completely dissipated. Swish! At the same time, Ningyu suddenly sprang out of the room and instantly appeared in front of Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, and the others. Ningyu, you're the one behind all this. Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable's face was very ugly. He felt that he had been played by Ningyu. In the past, he still wanted to plot against Ningyu. But who would have thought that he would be played by Ningyu? Don't say it so harshly. Ningyu said, "You want to kill me, and I want to kill you. It's fair." Fair? Humph. Do you think you can kill me? Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, snorted coldly. How do you know if you don't try? Ningyu shrugged and said. Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, had suffered a serious injury, and his strength had been reduced by at least half. Besides, even if Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, still had his peak combat strength, Ningyu was still not afraid. Courting death, Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, growled, and his body rushed out in an instant. As Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, rushed out, an extremely terrifying gust of wind swept out from his sleeves and arrived in front of Ningyu before Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable. Chi! Ningyu's face was expressionless, holding the red demon sword, and slashed out in the air. A crisp sound rang out, and the cold light thrown out by Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, was easily cut in half. At the same time, Spirit Cauldron, the Venerable, also arrived in front of Ningyu. A punch, carrying a violent Yuan Qi gale, ruthlessly smashed towards Ningyu's head. Although the Spirit Cauldron Venerable one only had 30% of his combat power left, he used up all his strength in that punch, and even emptied his body. Success or failure, it all depended on this. Life and death palm. Ningyu's face was solemn. The primordial qi in his sea of consciousness was crazily injected into his palm, and he made a backhand slap. Ha! The enormous force that came from his palm made Ningyu feel that it was unreal. Why was the Venerable Spirit Cauldron still so powerful? Whoosh! Whoosh! Next, Ningyu and the Venerable One took a few steps back at the same time. Puchi! After stabilizing himself, Ningyu spat out a mouthful of blood. Ningyu, do you think I only have 50% of my strength left? To tell you the truth, my strength isn't something you can guess. If you know what's good for you, hurry up, and after repelling Ningyu with a single move, the Venerable Spirit Cauldron said sinisterly, "You talk a lot of nonsense." Ningyu's eyes turned cold. He stomped on the ground and rushed out again. This time, Ningyu did not dare to be careless and dealt with the Venerable Spirit Cauldron as if he was at his peak. In the hall, Ningyu and the Venerable Spirit Cauldron were engaged in a fierce battle. At the corner of the hall, the Venerable Talisman Marshal and Yunmu were watching the fight from the sidelines. Aunt Yun, between Ningyu and the Venerable Spirit Cauldron, who do you think will win? Yunmu asked doubtfully. It has nothing to do with us. We just need to take care of ourselves. The Venerable Talisman Marshal said in a deep voice. Before knowing the true strength of the Venerable Spirit Cauldron and Ningyu, she would never help anyone. The Venerable Spirit Cauldron had hidden his strength so deeply, and she did not want to join hands with someone like him. Moreover, Ningyu was crafty and cunning. He had repeatedly used schemes to kill the Venerable Evil Dragon and the Venerable Blood Extermination. He was not a good person either. Under this premise, she could only take care of herself and not help either side. Ningyu, I advise you to surrender. Otherwise, I'll make you die a horrible death. In the air, the Venerable Spirit Cauldron shouted while fighting with Ningyu. How can you say something like that? You're simply stupid, Ningyu said disdainfully. Subsequently, Ningyu glanced at the venerable talisman marshal and said, "When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. I don't think I need to say that." Bang! The venerable spirit cauldron was not a fool. He forced Ningyu back with a punch and floated in the air. You might be curious as to why I advanced to the peak of the creation realm. Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, "The reason I was able to advance to the peak of the creation realm was because I found a great recovery pill in the first room." What? A great recovery pill? Upon hearing Ningyu's words, the venerable spirit cauldron finally lost his composure. The great revitalizing pill was a peak grade 8 medicinal pill, and its effect was very good. Even though he had advanced to 3rd grade human sovereign, consuming the great recovery pill was still very effective. Seeing the reaction of the venerable spirit cauldron, the corners of Ningyu's mouth curled up slightly, and he continued, "There are great recover pills in the yellow level hall, so you can imagine that there must be many good treasures in the black level hall." "What are you trying to say?" Venerable spirit cauldron said coldly. "Nothing much. I just wanted to tell you that there's a mid-stage 8th order demonic beast guarding the entrance of the profound grade great hall. That mid-stage 8th order demonic beast is called the fierce gale wolf, and its strength is much stronger than the 3-headed serpent." Ningyu said, "With your and talisman martial supremacy strength, it should be very difficult for you to contend against the gale wolves. Why don't the 3 of us join forces? That way, we should be able to successfully enter the yellow level hall." "How did you know that there were fierce wind wolves guarding the entrance of the yellow level hall?" Venerable Spirit Cauldron said in a deep voice. At this moment, the Venerable Spirit Cauldron felt that he couldn't understand Ningyu anymore. Being on the same side as Ningyu was like asking a tiger for its skin. "Bone Demon, Crimson Bat Monarch," Ningyu said as he stretched out 2 fingers. "I heard about it from them. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. Right now, you have 2 choices." When he spoke up to this point, Ningyu paused for a moment before he said, "Firstly, if we continue fighting, then it's very likely that both of us will be heavily injured, and the third party will benefit from the battle. Secondly, let's join forces and enter the profound hall to search for treasures." "You can't agree to it." Before the Venerable Spirit Cauldron could reply, Inhua, who was standing beside him, had already spoken out. Inhua had fought with Ningyu before, so he knew that Ningyu was extremely cunning. Anyone that was involved with Ning, you would have a good ending. Someone like Ning, you should be killed. "All right, I agree to it." The Venerable Spirit Cauldron didn't listen to Inhua's suggestion. He pondered for a full 3 minutes before he said, "Our alliance will only be limited to dealing with the fierce wind wolves. Once we enter the profound hall, it'll be up to fate." "I don't mind." Ningyu didn't bargain with the Venerable Spirit Cauldron any further. He turned around and walked towards the depths of the passageway. The Venerable Spirit Cauldron didn't set off, and he seemed to be discussing something with the talisman martial supremacy. Ningyu didn't care about the conversation between the Venerable Spirit Cauldron and the talisman martial supremacy at all. He arrived outside the room where the Dark Emperor and metal-devouring demon lion were. "Come on out. Let's go to the profound hall." Within the room, the Dark Emperor and metal-devouring demon lion were in a rather miserable state. A lot of their fur had been burnt off, and if the formation in the room hadn't been triggered at the critical moment, they would have died a long time ago. The Venerable Spirit Cauldron and the others have been dealt with. The Dark Emperor and metal-devouring demon lion tidied themselves up slightly before walking out of the room. Chapter 952. Gale Wolf. "Even if all of you die, I won't be killed." Just when the Dark Emperor came out of the room, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable walked past him and said coldly, "I'm going to kill you." Hearing the Spirit Cauldron Venerable's words, the Dark Emperor couldn't help cursing and immediately flew to Ningyu's side. At least the Dark Emperor knew his limits. The Spirit Cauldron Venerable was a grade 3 sovereign. With his strength, even if he's self-destructed, it would be hard for him to threaten the Spirit Cauldron Venerable. At this moment, he should be firmly tied to Ningyu and leave a powerful cultivator like the Spirit Cauldron Venerable to Ningyu. "Don't make a fuss. Follow me to the profound hall." Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that the Dark Emperor didn't have to worry. How can I not worry? The Dark Emperor muttered before he followed Ningyu into the depths of the passage. Violet gold sky, devouring hound. You better hope that you don't fall into my hands. Otherwise, I'll let you know the meaning of cruelty. The spirit cauldron venerable's lips rose as he said sinisterly. Russell. The passage to the Yellow Hall wasn't too deep. After a few minutes, Ningyu and the rest arrived at the depths of the passage. Looking at the stone wall before him, Ningyu fell into deep thoughts. The profound hall should be right next to the Yellow Hall. In other words, the profound hall should be behind the stone wall. Spirit cauldron venerable, talisman venerable, let's work together to blast open the stone wall. After a brief moment of silence, Ningyu turned around and said, I have no objections. The talisman venerable replied, I have no objections either. The spirit cauldron venerable shrugged. It's better for unrelated people to stay behind. Ningyu glanced at Yinhua and said indifferently, You. Yinhua glared at Ningyu fiercely and then retreated angrily to the back. As for the Dark Emperor and metal-devouring lion, they also took a few steps back. Yinmu could clearly see the situation before her. Without any hesitation, she retreated to the side of the Dark Emperor and metal-devouring lion. Attack! Seeing that the Dark Emperor had successfully retreated, Ningyu let out a low bellow and slashed out with the red demon sword. Chi-Chi! The huge sword wave made a circle in midair before blasting towards the stone wall. Whoosh! Whoosh! Seeing Ningyu make a move, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable and the Talisman Martial Venerable both waved their hands and each blasted out a palm print. In the blink of an eye, the two palm prints and the sword wave blasted on the stone wall. Kacha! As soon as the three powerful attacks came into contact with the stone wall, a crisp sound rang out. Then, a crack appeared in the middle of the stone wall. Kaka! The cracks grew larger and larger. Finally, the stone wall collapsed. Roar! As soon as the stone wall collapsed, Ningyu and the others heard the howl of a wolf. Fierce wind wolves. Even though Ningyu and the rest were prepared, they could not help but gasp when they sensed the terrifying aura emanating from the Gale Wolf before them. If Bone Devil hadn't died, Ningyu would have given him a few more blows. This was considered slightly stronger than the three-headed serpent. Damn it, this was too powerful. The three-headed serpent was only equivalent to a fourth-grade human sovereign, but the Gale Wolf was equivalent to a pinnacle fourth-grade human sovereign. He was only a step away from advancing to a fifth-grade human sovereign. If Ningyu and the Spirit Cauldron Venerable worked together and revealed their trump cards, they could contend against a fourth-grade human sovereign. They might even have the chance to kill a fourth-grade human sovereign demonic beast. However, the Gale Wolf before them was simply too powerful. It was so powerful that Ningyu and the rest felt that it was impossible to defeat it. Ningyu, it's all your fault. The Spirit Cauldron Venerable swallowed a mouthful of saliva as he berated Ningyu. The Talisman Martial Venerable's expression was also ugly. They had been tricked by Ningyu. They had all been tricked by Ningyu. Humans, you guys definitely want to enter the Profound Hall. I can let you in. At this moment, the Gale Wolf spoke. Let us in. Ningyu and the rest widened their eyes in confusion. Could it be that a pie had fallen from the sky? Otherwise, why would the Gale Wolf say such a thing? I only have one request. You guys have to promise to do something for me. As expected, there was no such thing as a pie falling from the sky. The Gale Wolf spoke again. As long as you guys can do it for me, not only will I not interfere with your treasure hunt in the Profound Hall, I will even help you enter the Earth Hall. Are you serious? The Spirit Cauldron Venerable's eyes lit up. What is it? Let's talk inside. The Gale Wolf turned around and entered the Profound Hall. What's there to be afraid of? Since we're already here, we definitely have to enter. The Spirit Cauldron Venerable said as he strode into the Profound Hall. The Talisman Martial Venerable pondered for a few seconds before entering the Profound Hall as well. Are we going in? The Dark Emperor, who was beside Ningyu, asked. Let's go in. Ningyu took a deep breath and immediately moved his feet to follow. Compared to the yellow-ranked halls, the black-ranked halls were much larger to a frightening degree. The Gale Wolf led Ning Yu and the others in the hall for a long time before finally stopping in a slightly empty area. What I want you to do is very simple. Take down the white box above. The Gale Wolf said. White box. The eyes of Ning Yu and the others flickered and finally fell on a white box on a high platform in the distance. Why is it the same size as the golden box? Ning Yu's heart skipped a beat. The white box was neither too big nor too small, just the same size as the box containing the Great Recovery Pill. Could it be a coincidence? Ning Yu murmured. Ning Yu, do you want to give it a try first? At this moment, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable's voice rang in Ning Yu's ears. Your cultivation is the highest here. In my opinion, it's better for you to give it a try first. Ning Yu said calmly. That's right. I also agree that you should give it a try first. The Talisman Venerable echoed. You, Ning Yu, and the Talisman Venerable mocked him together, causing the Spirit Cauldron Venerable's expression to turn ugly. Your cultivation is the highest. You'll do it. Go and see if you can get the white box first. The Gale Wolf looked at the Spirit Cauldron Venerable and shifted his gaze to the white box. No problem. Although he was furious, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable did not dare to show it. After all, the Gale Wolf was the strongest here. Once he offended the Gale Wolf, it would be a bitter battle. The Spirit Cauldron Venerable did not immediately take the white box, but moved step by step. There was no need to think about it. There must be an array around the white box. Otherwise, with the Gale Wolf's cultivation, it would be impossible for him not to take the white box. Don't worry, there is indeed an array around the white box, but it's only for demonic beasts. You're a human and won't be affected by the array. Lung Xie seemed to know what the Spirit Cauldron Venerable was thinking and said, All right. The Spirit Cauldron Venerable's expression was solemn as his body instantly shot out. Bang! However, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable did not fly far before he was bounced back by an invisible rebound force. Falling heavily on the ground, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable's expression was very ugly. Gale Wolf, didn't you say not to worry? Why was I bounced back? Chapter 953. 50 times gravity. Even a martial artist in the creation realm can pass through the outermost barrier. You can't? The first half of the fierce Gale Wolf's words were fine, but the second half took a turn and said coldly, Since that's the case, what's the point of keeping you alive? With that, the fierce Gale Wolf's hind hooves stomped on the ground, and its body darted out in an instant. Wait, let me try again. Seeing that the Gale Wolf was angry, the Venerable Spirit Cauldron rushed out of the white box once again. This time, he used all his strength. Violent energy fluctuations appeared on his hands as he ruthlessly slammed them against the barrier. Chi-Chi, no matter what, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable was a third-grade human sovereign, and the power of his all-out attack was still very great. He blasted a hole in the transparent barrier, and his body instantly squeezed through it. Pressure. As soon as he entered the barrier, the Venerable Spirit Cauldron felt his body sinking heavily. The pressure within the barrier was at least 50 times that of the outside world. Under 50 times the gravity, even a third-grade human sovereign like the Spirit Cauldron Venerable would find it a little difficult. Dragging his heavy legs, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable One walked toward the white box step by step. Ning Yu, why is Venerable Spirit Cauldron reacting like this? The Dark Emperor moved slightly closer to Ning Yu and asked doubtfully. Gravity. Ning Yu stretched out 5 fingers and said, The gravity inside the barrier is at least 50 times. Otherwise, with the Venerable Spirit Cauldron's strength, it wouldn't be like this. 50 times gravity. The Dark Emperor could not help but gasp. That's right. Ning Yu could see that the gravity inside the barrier was 50 times, which made the Gale Wolf look up to him. In the past, many martial artists had come to the profound Rank Great Hall, but unfortunately, none of them could see that there was 50 times the gravity inside the barrier. Ning Yu, a martial artist at the peak of the creation realm, could actually see through it. He was indeed not simple. I'm very curious. You're only at the peak of the manifestation realm. How did you manage to pass through the yellow level hall? The Gale Wolf said doubtfully. You should know that the 3-headed snake is very powerful. Although the three-headed snake is very powerful, it can't do anything to us, Ningyu explained. When we entered the Beast King Palace, there were a total of 3 third-grade human supremacies. Now, only Venerable Spirit Cauldron is left. Ha ha ha. The Gale Wolf was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. I get it now. You guys paid the price of losing 2 third-grade Sovereign Realm humans to get here. Exactly. Ningyu nodded. Shio, 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 shio. Suddenly, the sound of several arrows piercing through the void rang out. Upon hearing that, Ningyu quickly turned his head to look at the Venerable One. Damn it! Inside the barrier, Venerable Spirit Cauldron cursed and hurriedly took out his flying sword and waved it repeatedly. Ding ding! Arrows that blotted out the sky emerged from the void and shot towards Spirit Cauldron Venerable. Although the Venerable Spirit Cauldron used his flying sword to block the attack, it was useless. Puff, puff, puff. 3 minutes later, Venerable Spirit Cauldron's body was pierced by countless arrows. One of the arrows pierced the Venerable Spirit Cauldron's forehead. It was this arrow that caused Venerable Spirit Cauldron's death. Venerable Spirit Cauldron. Inhua yelled after Venerable Spirit Cauldron's death. At this moment, Inhua's heart sank to the bottom. Venerable Spirit Cauldron was the key to his survival in the Yellow Palace. Now that Venerable Spirit Cauldron had died, he definitely wouldn't have a good ending. Boom! As expected, the Gale Wolf's tail swept and hit Inhua's body. The huge force that came from his body sent Inhua flying. Inhuafei's direction happened to be where Venerable Spirit Cauldron died. After passing through the barrier, Inhua also felt the pain brought by the 50-fold gravity. What was more terrifying was that the arrows that blotted out the sky appeared once again, turning Inhua into a sieve. Gulp! This situation made the Dark Emperor and the rest gulp down a mouthful of saliva as their faces turned ugly. How is this taking the white box? They were clearly sending themselves to death. Not to mention the arrows that blotted out the sky. Even the 50-fold gravity was more than enough for them. Rumble. Suddenly, the ground inside the barrier caved in. As the ground caved in continuously, the faces of Ningyu and the rest became uglier and uglier. In the end, their faces were completely drained of blood. A huge pit appeared on the ground, and dozens of martial artists were lying in disorder in the pit. Among these martial artists, the lowest cultivation level was at the peak of the manifestation realm, and the highest was even a 4th-grade human sovereign. Unsurprisingly, these martial artists were all going to take the white box for the Gale Wolf. Don't worry, as more people die, the gravity and arrows inside will decrease. The Gale Wolf's words rang out. At first, the gravity inside was 100 times, but now it has decreased to 50 times. At first, the arrows inside were enough to kill a 4th-grade human sovereign, but now they can only kill a 3rd-grade human sovereign. Gale Wolf, can you tell me what's inside the white box? Ningyu asked doubtfully. Ningyu was unwilling to die without knowing why. At the very least, he wanted to find out what was inside the white box before he died. There's no harm in telling you. There's an elixir inside the white box. After pondering for a moment, the Gale Wolf said, a peak 8th-grade elixir. My cultivation has reached a bottleneck. As long as I can get the elixir inside the white box, I might even be able to improve further. Further? Ningyu frowned slightly and said, you mean the elixir inside the white box can help you advance to the 5th-grade human sovereign realm? That's right. I can see that you're quite capable. How about this? You go and get the white box. The Gale Wolf said, I can help you get the white box, but you have to promise me that you won't make things difficult for the Dark Emperor and the metal-devouring lion, Ningyu said in a deep voice. I'm not a wolf that goes back on his words. If you can help me get the white box, I won't make things difficult for them. But if you fail, I can't guarantee what will happen. As he spoke, the Gale Wolf swept his tail and whipped it at Ningyu. Swoosh! Seeing that he was about to be whipped, Ningyu's figure flashed, and he dashed towards the barrier first. Chi-Chi! A violent wave of Yuan Chi appeared on Ningyu's fist as he punched the barrier. An opening appeared on the barrier. Ningyu seized the fleeting opportunity and entered the barrier. 50 times the gravity. As soon as he entered the barrier, Ningyu felt his legs sink, as though he was about to fall into the pit. Rise! The Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness surged out and gathered on his legs. Ningyu forcefully floated in the air. Whoosh! Before Ningyu could fully adapt to the 50 times gravity, countless arrows shot out from the void and attacked him from all directions. Watch out! Outside the barrier, the Dark Emperor and the metal-devouring lion shouted at the same time. They had already witnessed the power of the arrows. They could even kill a third-grade human sovereign, the Spirit Cauldron Venerable, let alone a peak manifestation realm Ningyu. Chapter 954. Break! Ding! Ding! Inside the barrier, Ningyu wielded the red demon sword and waved it repeatedly. Crisp sounds rang out one after another. Countless arrows fell into the pit on the ground like kites with broken strings. Your strength is decent, but I wonder if you can help me get the white box. The happiest person was the Gale Wolf outside the barrier when Ningyu was not killed by the arrows immediately. One had to know that only 2 or 3 of the martial artists who had entered the barrier could withstand the arrows for so long. And none of these martial artists were lower than a third-grade human supreme. Looks like the quality of this batch of martial artists who entered the Beast King's palace is decent. The Gale Wolf murmured as he stared at Ningyu inside the barrier. Swoosh! Suddenly, an arrow streaked past Ningyu's cheek. In an instant, a bloody mark appeared. Damn it! Cursing in his heart, Ningyu quickly channeled all the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into the red demon's sword. He was highly focused and did not dare to be distracted. In this situation, Ningyu could be riddled with arrows if he was distracted for even a second. I have to think of a way to get close to the white box. The situation was not looking good for Ningyu. Seeing that there were more and more arrows, Ningyu decided to take the risk and get close to the white box. Swoosh! Just as Ningyu was moving his body step by step, an arrow as thick as an arm pierced through the air. At the same time, an overwhelming number of arrows tore through the air and shot toward Ningyu. Solitaire. At the critical moment, Ningyu used all the strength in his body and slashed out a shocking sword wave. The sword wave was extremely fast. Under the shocked gazes of the Dark Emperor and the rest, it collided with the huge arrow. What? The next moment, Ningyu's expression changed drastically, because the sword wave he unleashed could not even block the arrow for a second. The arrow tore through the sword wave and arrived before him. Puff! While Ningyu was unprepared, the arrow pierced directly into Ningyu's body. Fortunately, Ningyu had dodged to the side. Otherwise, if the arrow had pierced his heart, he would have died on the spot. Bang! Although Ningyu reacted in time, the huge force of the arrow still forced his body several feet back, and he finally crashed into an invisible barrier. Whoosh! 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 As soon as Ningyu crashed into the barrier, the countless arrows abruptly stopped and tore through the void before disappearing. The disappearance of the arrows, not only shocked Ningyu, but even the Gale Wolf was in disbelief. One had to know that the Gale Wolves had never encountered such a situation before. Are you lying to me? The Gale Wolf's expression was very ugly. In fact, the white box did not contain an 8th-grade elixir, but an extremely important item. It was an item that determined whether the fierce Gale Wolf could escape from the Beast King's palace. Similar to the 6-winged sky soaring python, the Gale Wolf was also restricted in the Beast King's palace. The only difference was that the 6-winged sky soaring python only needed to find a way to break the python trapping formation to regain its freedom, and the Gale Wolf needed to obtain the item in the white box to regain its freedom. Otherwise, why would the Gale Wolf be so busy here? Brat, hurry up and take out the white box for me. Thinking of this, the Gale Wolf shouted. Phew! Ningyu let out a long breath, sat down cross-legged, and began to recuperate. The pressure of contending against the arrows was no less than fighting against a 3rd-grade supreme martial artist. He had already encountered such a great danger before even approaching the white box. One could imagine how dangerous the situation would be when he approached the white box. Therefore, Ningyu did not care about the Gale Wolf's roars and focused on recuperating. "Brat, do you want to die?" the Gale Wolf berated. In fact, the Gale Wolf even unleashed his aura to suppress the Dark Emperor and the others, using this to threaten Ningyu. "Gale Wolf, in my current state, even if I obtain the white box, I won't be able to pass through the arrow formation." Ningyu said in a deep voice, "If you don't want the white box, you can make your move." Ningyu could ignore the Gale Wolf's roars, but he definitely had to care about the Dark Emperor's life. "I'll give you an hour. You better not play any tricks. Otherwise, I'll let you know the meaning of cruelty." The Gale Wolf left behind a ruthless sentence, then retracted his aura and glared at Ningyu. The item in the white box was crucial to whether he could successfully leave the Beast King's palace. The Gale Wolf did not want any unforeseen events to happen. Among so many cultivators, Ningyu had the highest chance of obtaining the white box. Naturally, the Gale Wolf had to keep a close eye on it. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. The wound on Ningyu's chest had gradually healed. The essence in his sea of consciousness had also recovered to its peak state. Break! Ningyu didn't want to waste any time. He injected his primordial chi into his fist and punched the barrier with a backhand. Shing! Under Ningyu's powerful attack, the barrier merely shook for a moment before it completely cracked. F***CK. Even Ningyu was a little surprised to blast the barrier open with a single punch. Originally, Ningyu thought that he would need at least 3 to 4 punches to blast the barrier open. Who would have thought that he would succeed with a single punch? This was truly out of his expectations. After sorting out his thoughts, Ningyu moved his feet and stepped into the barrier. Hiss! As soon as he entered the barrier, Ningyu gasped in shock. This gasp was not from fear, but from shock. Too shocking. Ningyu could clearly feel that the closer he got to the white box, the denser the essence became. The degree of the essence was even denser than the forbidden grounds of some of the major sections. "What are you dawdling for? Hurry up and bring the white box over." Seeing that Ningyu had successfully broken the barrier, the fierce Gale Wolf's face turned heated. "Sapling, let's make a deal, shall we?" Ningyu's eyes darted around as he came up with a devious idea. The sapling was indeed very strong, but to get its help, the first requirement was energy or essence. As long as there was energy and essence, the sapling would be able to help in battle. Based on Ningyu's guess, the sapling's current combat strength should be equivalent to a 5th-grade human supreme being. Furthermore, it was a peak 5th-grade human supreme being. "I want the item in the white box." The reply to Ningyu was a sentence that made Ningyu speechless. Ningyu had planned to use the essence in this area to trade with the sapling. Unexpectedly, the sapling was a little greedy and actually wanted the item in the white box. "It's not that you can't have it, but I have a condition. You must first help me deal with the fierce Gale Wolf outside." Ningyu said. The fierce Gale Wolf had gone through so much trouble to obtain the white box, but you actually wanted to snatch it from the fierce Gale Wolf. Ningyu's idea was simple. You can have the white box, but you must first get rid of the fierce Gale Wolf. However, what the sapling said next made Ningyu want to curse. Chapter 955. Block, forget it. Go do what you need to do. I'll look for you if there's anything. Ningyu would never agree to the sapling. Give the item in the white box to the sapling? What a joke. The current situation was clear. As long as Ningyu didn't give the white box to the Gale Wolf, the lives of the Dark Emperor and the rest would be in danger. For the safety of the Dark Emperor and the rest, Ningyu couldn't come to an agreement with the sapling. "Let's talk." The sapling seemed to desire the item in the white box. Its voice rang in Ningyu's mind again. "Everyone take a step back. I'll block the Gale Wolf for you for a minute. Within this minute, you can think of a way to leave this hall." 1 minute. Ningyu's eyes darted around as he thought about the feasibility of the matter. Within a minute, he had to leave the Xian Hall and open the Earth Hall. To be honest, it was a little difficult for the current Ningyu. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said, "Let's do it this way. You must block the Gale Wolf for a minute." In the next moment, A terrifying, devouring power emitted from Ningyu's body and frantically devoured the surrounding yuan qi. As the devouring power surged out, the yuan qi around Ningyu rapidly decreased. Aunt Yun, Ningyu actually has such a powerful devouring power. Yunmu exclaimed when he saw Ningyu's actions. There's nothing to be surprised about. Although this devouring power is strong, it's not difficult for anyone above grade 3 human supremacy, the talisman supremacy said. The corner of Yunmu's mouth twitched. Anyone above grade 3 human supremacy? Do you really think that Ningyu is a grade 3 human supremacy? One must know that Ningyu is only at the pinnacle of the manifestation realm. Dark Emperor, how confident is Ningyu in getting the white box? The metal-devouring lion asked nervously. After all, whether Ningyu could get the white box or not was related to his safety. The Dark Emperor glared at the lion and said, "Don't you believe in Ningyu's strength? A mere white box won't be a problem for him." "Of course, I hope Ningyu can get the white box." The metal-devouring demon lion murmured. To be honest, the metal-devouring demon lion did not have high hopes for Ningyu. After all, the scene of Venerable Spirit Cauldron's tragic death was still vivid in his mind. Although Ningyu was closer to the white box than the Venerable Spirit Cauldron, the lion still did not trust Ningyu. What happened next caused the metal-devouring demon lion to reveal a horrified expression. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Apart from the metal-devouring demon lion, even the expressions of the Dark Emperor and the others changed slightly. Unbeknownst to everyone, Ningyu had already arrived beside the white box. He stretched out his hand and held the white box tightly in front of everyone. Not bad. Actually, the moment before his hand approached the white box, Ningyu's heart was beating a little faster, afraid that he would encounter unknown danger. This time, Ningyu thought a little too much. Nothing happened until Ningyu held the white box in his hand. "Hurry up and throw the white box out." Seeing that Ningyu had obtained the white box, the Zephyr Wolf shouted, "Are you sure you want me to throw the white box out?" Ningyu waved the white box in his hand and asked doubtfully, "What are you waiting for? If you don't throw the white box over, I'll kill these two beasts." The Zephyr Wolf released his aura and crazily pressed down on the Dark Emperor and the others. Right now, the Zephyr Wolf was almost crazy, seeing that he was about to obtain the white box and completely break free from the control of the Beast King. Who wouldn't be excited? Poochie, 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 Poochie. The Zephyr Wolf was a peak grade 4 beast after all, and his aura was still very strong. Under the pressure of his strong aura, the Dark Emperor and the others all spat out a big mouthful of blood, and their auras plummeted. Zephyr Wolf, you win. Catch! Anger flashed past the corner of Ningyu's eyes. Then, with a flip of his wrist, he threw the white box out. Swoosh! However, before the golden box could fly far, it was hit by an even bigger arrow and fell directly into the pit on the ground. What? The sudden change caused the Zephyr Wolf's expression to change drastically. The excited expression on his face instantly turned cold. At this moment, the Zephyr Wolf's face revealed a furious expression. Due to being overly excited, he had forgotten about this. Since he could not pass through the arrow array, it meant that it would be difficult for him to pass through the white box as well. Otherwise, he would have gone in and snatched the white box away. Why would he need to wait for so long? Now that the white box had fallen into the pit, all his efforts were in vain. His joy turned into sorrow. Brat, hurry up and bring the white box over, or I'll kill them. The Zephyr Wolf turned his attention to Ningyu again. He wanted to grab hold of Ningyu, the straw. Only Ningyu could help him obtain the white box. Zephyr Wolf, if you want me to help, you have to give me some benefits. In that instant earlier, Ningyu saw the deep disappointment between the Zephyr Wolf's brows. Therefore, he concluded that the white box must be very important to the Zephyr Wolf. Since that was the case, why not seize the opportunity to reap some benefits? Humph, I see that you're tired of living. If you dare to bargain with me again, I'll kill her first. With a cold snort, the Zephyr Wolf came before the talisman's supremacy and said, "So be it. I don't care." Ningyu shrugged. Anyway, the talisman supremacy had nothing to do with him. He did not want to care about the talisman supremacy's life or death. Puff. Looking at Ning Yu's indifferent expression, the Zephyr Wolf raised his front claws and grabbed at the talisman supremacy's neck fiercely. The angle of the Zephyr Wolf's grab was tricky and extremely fast. At the critical moment, the talisman supremacy's eyes turned cold. He hurriedly took out a scroll and threw it out. Explode. As the talisman supremacy bellowed, the scroll suddenly exploded. Not good. When the scroll exploded, the Dark Emperor and the rest had a drastic change in expression as they retreated immediately. Dark Emperor, gold-devouring demon lion, hurry up and enter the barrier. Ning Yu knew that the scroll was very powerful. The Dark Emperor and the gold-devouring demon lion would definitely not be able to withstand it. Therefore, he hurriedly reminded them. Swish! Swish! The Dark Emperor and the gold-devouring demon lion's eyes lit up. With a flash, they entered the barrier in the blink of an eye. Swish! Swish! The talisman supremacy and Yunmu entered the barrier with the Dark Emperor and the rest. Swish! 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 The Dark Emperor and the rest had just entered the barrier when countless arrows surged out from the void. Solitaire. Ning Yu flipped his wrist and waved the Red Fiend's sword repeatedly, slashing out several sword waves. Swish! Countless sword waves collided with the arrows. Without a doubt, when the sword waves dissipated, only a few arrows were damaged. Dark Emperor, hurry up and follow me. Ning Yu knew that he could not withstand the arrows with his strength for the time being. He could only bring the Dark Emperor and the rest into the safe zone first before planning further. Understood. Chapter 956. Purpose. Swoosh. Behind the Dark Emperor, the metal-devouring demon lion followed closely and even used all its strength. Swoosh. Swoosh. The two martial artists behind were the talisman supremacy and Yunmu. Under the cover of the sword waves that Ning Yu slashed out, the talisman supremacy and Yunmu successfully dodged the arrow attack and entered the area where the white box was. Whoosh! Whoosh! After successfully escaping, the talisman supremacy and Yunmu let out a long breath. At the same time, the talisman supremacy and Yunmu couldn't help but look at Ning Yu in a higher light. When the talisman supremacy saw the spirit cauldron supremacy being killed, she was still a little disdainful and thought that the spirit cauldron supremacy was just SOSO and couldn't even block a few arrows. Now that she entered the barrier and directly faced the arrows, she finally knew that the spirit cauldron supremacy's death was not unjust. No matter what, the spirit cauldron supremacy also lasted for quite a while in the arrow formation. If she didn't have Ning Yu's help, she wouldn't even have lasted for a minute. Now that things had come to this, she had completely changed her view of Ning Yu. She now regarded Ning Yu as an expert on the same level as her. Just as the talisman supremacy and the others entered the safe area, the Gale Wolf outside the barrier let out a hysterical howl. The howl was extremely miserable and terrifying. Talisman supremacy, looks like you have a lot of trump cards. You actually have that ancient scroll. Ning Yu glanced at the Gale Wolf that was in pain and said plainly, How can I be compared to young hero Ning? If it wasn't for young hero Ning, I definitely wouldn't have survived. The talisman supremacy smiled and said, From now on, as long as young hero Ning has any request, I, the talisman supremacy, will definitely do my best to complete it. Is that true? Ning Yu raised his brows and said without batting an eyelid. Really? The talisman supremacy said with certainty. Ning Yu stared into talisman martial supremacy's eyes and said, All right then. I want to know your true motive for entering the Beast King Palace. Don't tell me that you're here for treasure hunting. The talisman supremacy's eyes flickered indeterminately when he heard that, and he did not answer Ning Yu immediately. Roar! Right at this moment, the fierce Gale Wolf howled at the sky and said gloomily, Stinking bitch, you actually dare to plot against me. Good, very good. Gale Wolf, if you didn't want to kill me, would I have plotted against you? Talisman supremacy could not wait to change the topic, and the Gale Wolf gave her a chance to get rid of Ning Yu. Besides, I attacked you openly. You just didn't notice it. How can it be considered a sneak attack? I'm not going to argue with you. In any case, as long as I'm here, don't even think about leaving the Black Level Great Hall. Gale Wolf said fiercely. Ningyu, I think we should open the white box and see if the fierce Gale Wolf is still so arrogant. Talisman Supremacy said coldly. The white box seems to be my personal property. You have no right to interfere with how I deal with it, right? Ningyu said expressionlessly. Talisman Supremacy was slightly embarrassed. Ningyu, we are all grasshoppers tied to the same rope now. We should help each other. Yinmu's words sounded at the right time. Hey, now you're saying that we're grasshoppers tied to the same rope? Why didn't you say that when you attacked us in the past? The Dark Emperor's expression was cold as he berated. If you want to form an alliance with us, you have to first tell Ningyu your true purpose for coming to the Beast King Palace. Don't even think about lying. We can easily tell if you're lying or not. You, being rebuked by the Dark Emperor. Yinmu's expression was very ugly. The Dark Emperor's cultivation was very low. If he was not afraid of Ningyu and the fierce Gale Wolf outside the barrier, Yinmu would definitely teach the Dark Emperor a lesson. In the current situation, Yinmu could not make a move and could not make a move. After all, Yinmu was very clear that she and Talisman Supremacy had used up all their trump cards. Whether they could survive or not depended on whether Ningyu was willing to help them. The Dark Emperor's meaning is my meaning. You still have 1 minute to consider. Ningyu casually found a place to sit down and said while playing with the white box. Actually, Ningyu was not worried that Talisman Supremacy and Yinmu would reject him. As long as he was willing, he could instantly kill Talisman Supremacy and Yinmu. Yinmu was only a grade 1 human supremacy. Talisman Supremacy's cultivation was not high either. He was only at the peak of grade 1 human supremacy. With Ningyu's current strength, it was very easy to kill Yinmu and Talisman Supremacy, who did not have any trump cards. Fine, I'll tell you. Talisman Supremacy gritted his teeth and said, We came to the Beast King Palace mainly for 2 reasons. Ningyu listened attentively. First, it's for the Dharma treasures in the Beast King Palace. There are many Dharma treasures in the Beast King Palace. I believe that you must have obtained some kind of treasure in the Beast King Palace to be able to advance to the peak of the creation realm. Second, it's because there is a jade pendant in the core area of the Beast King Palace. Whether it is the Blood God Palace, the Corpse Insect, or the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, they all came to the Beast King Palace for that jade pendant. Jade pendant? What jade pendant? Ningyu raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion. Mystic Moon Jade Pendant. Talisman Supremacy said in a deep voice. Hiss. Hearing Talisman Supremacy's words, Ningyu could not help but gasp. His face became extremely gloomy. Mystic Moon Jade Pendant was a type of jade pendant that was specially used to suppress the extreme Yin body. Lu Wei had one on her. Who would have thought that there would be a Mystic Moon Jade Pendant in the Beast King Palace? There were a total of 2 Mystic Moon Jade Pendants. Since there was one in the Beast King Palace, it meant that the master of the Beast King Palace was definitely related to Lu Wei. Thinking of this, Ningyu's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He did not know whether he was happy or worried. He was happy that he had a chance to find Lu Wei's biological parents, but he was worried about Lu Wei's safety. Before I see that Mystic Moon Jade Pendant, I absolutely cannot let Lu Wei leave the spatial ring. Ningyu secretly made up his mind. Before he found the Mystic Moon Jade Pendant, he could not let Lu Wei leave the spatial ring. This was because as they got closer and closer to the core area, there was a high chance that the other person with the Mystic Moon Jade Pendant would know that Lu Wei had arrived. You've heard of the Mystic Moon Jade Pendant? Ningyu's subtle movements were all seen by Talisman Supremacy. In the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion, the Mystic Moon Jade Pendant was an absolute secret, a secret among secrets. Talisman Supremacy did not believe that Ningyu had heard of it before. No, I'm just a little curious. The continent we are on is called the Mystic Moon Mainland, and the Jade Pendant you are looking for is called the Mystic Moon Jade Pendant. Is there some relationship between the two? Ningyu waved his hand and asked. I don't know what relationship there is. Talisman Supremacy said, I can tell you very clearly that there are definitely many factions gathered in the core hall right now. We're just playing a small game here. Playing a small game? What forces? Ningyu said doubtfully. Swish. Except, Ningyu's voice had yet to fade when the sapling suddenly sprang out from his body and rushed towards the fierce gale wolf with an astonishing speed. At the same time, the sapling's words sounded in Ningyu's mind. I'll help you block the fierce gale wolf for a minute. You guys hurry and leave this place. F***CK. Chapter 9:57. Massive energy, let's go. Cursing aside, Ningyu did not dare to stay here any longer. He rose from the ground and charged out with the red demon's sword in hand. The sapling only promised to block the gale wolf for a minute. In other words, the sapling would not interfere with this matter after a minute. Within this minute, Ningyu had to leave the black-level Great Hall, or there was still a chance of survival. Kill the gale wolf together with the sapling. However, before he made his choice, there was one more important thing he had to do. Leave his place. Ningyu, you can't abandon us. Venerable Talisman Marshal hurriedly said when she saw that Ningyu wanted to leave. Venerable Talisman Marshal was very smart. She knew that she could not block the arrows and could only rely on Ningyu's sword wave to pass through the array of arrows. Once Ningyu abandoned her and Yunmu, she and Yunmu might not be able to leave for the rest of their lives. How troublesome. Follow me closely. With a low grunt, Ningyu rose from the ground and waved the red demon sword in his hand. Whoosh! As Ningyu waved the red demon's sword in his hand, countless sword waves suddenly appeared and opened a path in front of him. Whoosh whoosh. When the sword waves appeared, the arrows naturally appeared out of thin air. Compared to the previous two arrows, the arrows this time were obviously much more powerful. Not long ago, Ningyu had slashed out several sword waves which could slightly block a few arrows, but now, several sword waves couldn't even block a single arrow. Damn it, Venerable Talisman Marshal, inject your vital energy into the red demon's sword. Ningyu cursed under his breath and shouted. That's not very good. Venerable Talisman Marshal hesitated. Her combat ability was not as good as Ningyu's. If she were to inject her vital energy into the red demon's sword, she would be restricted by Ningyu even more. At that time, she would have to do whatever Ningyu wanted her to do. She had no other choice. Scram if you don't want to. Seeing the Talisman Marshal's supremacy hesitate, Ningyu was instantly infuriated. I'm trying my best to block the arrows for you, but you're actually trying to play tricks. Since that's the case, I won't help you. Yunmu, pour all your energy into the red demon's sword. Seeing that Ningyu was enraged, the Talisman Supremacy waved his hands repeatedly, and the primal chi in his sea of consciousness surged out and poured into the red demon's sword. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As for the remaining Dark Emperor, Yunmu, and the metal-devouring Demon Lion, the three of them did not remain idle. They all channeled their vital chi into the red fiend sword. As the essence in the red demon's sword increased, the frequency at which Ningyu brandished the sword also increased. In the end, a sword wave that was several times stronger than the arrow appeared and pressed down on the arrow. Boom! In a short period of time, a gap was blasted open in the arrow formation. Go! Looking at the gap, Ningyu's face lit up with joy. The vital chi around his ankles burned continuously, and his body instantly darted out. The Talisman Marshal Supremacy and the rest did not dare to delay and followed closely behind. Rumble. Just as Ningyu and the rest left the arrow formation, the white box in the hole beneath the arrow formation suddenly exploded. Puffed. After the white box exploded, the gale wolf in the distance suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his aura instantly dropped from the pinnacle 4th grade human supreme to the Xiantian realm. Foolish humans. The gale wolf's eyes locked onto Ningyu, and he said coldly, You destroyed my... Puffed. Halfway through his sentence, the gale wolf's voice suddenly stopped, and he spat out another large mouthful of blood. At this moment, the pinnacle 4th grade human supreme, the intermediate 8th grade gale wolf, died strangely. What happened? The Gale Wolf's inexplicable death caused everyone, including Ningyu, to be a little dumbfounded. Just what was in the white box, and why did the Gale Wolf die when it exploded? Swish! Just at this moment, the sapling turned into an afterimage and charged into the hole. Seeing this, Ningyu hurriedly unleashed his perception and followed the sapling into the hole. Holy shit! The moment his perception entered the hole, Ningyu couldn't help cursing. That was because Ningyu felt a massive amount of energy in the hole. The energy was extremely massive to a terrifying extent. It could be said that ever since his rebirth, Ningyu had never seen so much energy. A drop of the Gale Wolf's blood essence is sealed in the energy. In the middle of the massive energy, Ningyu also discovered the Gale Wolf's blood essence. Now, Ningyu finally understood why the Gale Wolf wanted the white box. Firstly, the white box contained a massive amount of energy, enough for him to advance to the 5th grade Human Supreme. Secondly, the Gale Wolf's main blood essence was trapped in the white box. Only by obtaining the white box could it regain its freedom. Venerable Talisman Marshal, wait here for a moment. I'll head to the Earth level hall when I come out. With so much energy, it would be a waste not to devour it. Ningyu wouldn't let the sapling have it for free. After leaving those words, his figure flashed, and he charged into the hole. What's in the hole? Venerable Talisman Marshal frowned her brows as she separated a bit of her soul force and carefully approached the hole. Hiss! However, before her soul force could reach the edge of the hole, it was destroyed by a powerful energy. Venerable Talisman Marshal, don't blame me for being rude if you dare to do such a thing again. At the same time, Ningyu's voice rang in the Venerable Talisman Marshal's ears. Venerable Talisman Marshal's face turned ugly when she heard Ningyu's threatening words. However, there was nothing she could do. Without any trump cards, she could only listen to Ningyu. Otherwise, Ningyu would definitely kill her. The only thing I can do now is wait until I enter the core hall before settling this debt with Ningyu. Venerable Talisman Marshal took a deep breath and found a place to rest. There were many forces in the core hall, including people from the Nine Cauldron Divine Pavilion. In front of the experts from the Nine Cauldron Divine Pavilion, Ningyu was just a clown. After all, the weakest among the experts from the Nine Cauldron Divine Pavilion was a Grade 4 Human Supreme. There were even experts at Grade 5 and Grade 6 Human Supreme. Absorb! Ningyu didn't want to care about Venerable Talisman Marshal's schemes, nor did he have the ability to. At this moment, Ningyu was busy absorbing the energy from the hole. Circulating the spirit transformation art to the extreme, Ningyu crazily devoured the energy in the hole. Luckily, Ningyu had cultivated the spirit transformation art to the 6th level. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't be able to snatch the energy from the sapling. Even if Ningyu cultivated the spirit transformation art to the 6th level, he could only pick up the leftover energy from the sapling. But it was this leftover energy that gave Ningyu the urge to make a breakthrough. If others knew of Ningyu's current state, they would probably be so shocked that their eyeballs would fall out of their sockets. One had to know that it had only been 2 hours since Ningyu had advanced to the peak of the manifestation realm. Advancing from the peak of the manifestation realm to the half-step supremacy realm in 2 hours, that was too terrifying. Chapter 958. Eight-legged centipede, absorb it. In the pit, Ningyu circulated the spirit transformation technique to the extreme and devoured the energy crazily. As the energy in his sea of consciousness increased, Ningyu's expression became more and more solemn. He couldn't drop the ball at the crucial moment. Otherwise, all his efforts would go to waste. Ningyu didn't want to break through to the supremacy realm directly. After all, there was still a half-step supremacy realm between the supremacy realm and the peak of the manifestation realm. With Ningyu's current state, it wasn't difficult for him to break through to the supremacy realm. However, if he wanted to break through to the supremacy realm directly, he would be lacking something. Bam! After about half an hour, the energy in Ningyu's sea of consciousness was finally filled to the brim. Then, a muffled sound was heard. Hearing the muffled sound, Ningyu couldn't help but frown. This muffled sound didn't mean that Ningyu had advanced to the half-step supremacy realm. Instead, it meant that the energy that he had devoured in the past half an hour was all intercepted by the law of space. With the energy intercepted, Ningyu naturally couldn't advance. "You're rebelling," Ningyu bellowed. With a thought, he split a portion of his soul force into his sea of consciousness. If he allowed the law of space to continue messing around in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu wouldn't be able to advance to the half-step supremacy realm. While Ningyu was dealing with the law of space, the sapling was devouring the energy crazily. The sapling was rooted on the branch of the world tree and relied on the energy that Ningyu swindled to grow. Now that there was so much energy in the pit, the sapling naturally began to devour it crazily. Chi-chi. Time was ticking away. Chi-chi sounds came from the pit continuously, attracting the attention of Supremacy Talisman Marshal and the rest. However, they only dared to look and didn't dare to split their soul perception into the pit. "Aunt Yin, what do you think Ningyu is doing?" Yin Mu didn't know that Ningyu was trying to advance to the half-step sovereign realm in the pit, because he didn't know that there was a huge amount of energy in the pit. Forget about what Ningyu is doing for now. What you need to do now is to recover to your peak state as soon as possible, the Talisman Supremacy said in a deep voice. Ever since they entered the Beast King Palace, they had encountered many dangers. This included the Bone Devil and the Blood-Colored Bat King in the outer region of the Beast King Palace, as well as the Three-Headed Snake and the Gale Wolf in the inner region. With Ningyu's personality, he would definitely head to the Earth Level Hall later. The Earth Level Palace Hall's hunter was the eight-legged centipede, whose strength was above that of the fierce Gale Wolf. The Gale Wolf alone was enough to render them helpless, let alone the eight-legged centipede, who was even more powerful than the Gale Wolf and the Sky Level Hall's Earthshaker. Understood. Yinmu knew the seriousness of the problem. When faced with danger, no one could be relied on. The only one he could rely on was himself. Therefore, Yinmu sat down cross-legged and began to recover. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. Boom! When the third hour arrived, an aura suddenly soared into the sky from the pit. What? Sensing the soaring aura, the Talisman Supremacy suddenly opened his eyes and stood up from the ground. Staring at the pit, the Talisman Supremacy exclaimed, "What's going on?" It should be the aura of a half-step supremacy. At the side, Yinmu opened his mouth and said hesitantly, "Swoosh!" At the same time, a figure rushed out of the pit. Looking at the familiar figure in front of her, Yinmu's face was full of bitterness. If she remembered correctly, the first time she saw Ningyu was only at the middle stage of creation realm. How long had it been? Ningyu actually advanced to half-step supremacy. Why? Is there something on my face? Ningyu's figure flashed and came in front of Yinmu, asking doubtfully. No, nothing. Hearing Ningyu's words, Yinmu hurriedly said, "If there's nothing, let's go to the Earth Level Hall." Ningyu waved his hand and walked towards the Earth Level Hall first. Originally, the Talisman Supremacy wanted to warn Ningyu, but seeing Ningyu's confident expression, she wanted to say something but hesitated. Although Ningyu advanced to half-step supremacy, in the Talisman Supremacy's opinion, he was still unable to contend with the eight-legged centipede. Forget it. Since Ningyu dares to go to the Earth Level Hall, it means that he definitely has a trump card. The Talisman Supremacy did not stay in the same place for too long. Very soon, he followed behind Ningyu and disappeared. After walking for a whole hour in the Black Level Hall, Ningyu and the others finally stopped in front of a huge stone door. Earth Level Hall. Staring at the 4 big words on the stone door, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "All of you back off. I'm going to think of a way to open it." Russell. Hearing this, the Talisman Supremacy and the Dark Emperor took a few steps back. Ningyu took a deep breath and injected the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into the Red Demon Sword. Buzz. After advancing to half-step supremacy, the Yuan Qi in Ningyu's sea of consciousness had become extremely dense. In terms of the density of Yuan Qi, even an ordinary 4th-grade supremacy might not be as powerful as Ningyu. Solitaire, holding the red demon sword, Ningyu slashed out a sword wave. Bang! The sword wave bombarded the stone door, but it only produced a crisp sound. There was no change to the stone door at all. Earth-level Hall's defense is this strong. After the first attack, Ningyu did not rush to launch a second attack. Instead, he fell in a deep thought. His current all-out attack could even kill a 4th-grade supremacy, but it could not break the stone door of the Earth-level Hall. I don't believe it. After a moment of silence, Ningyu injected the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into the red demon sword and slashed out another terrifying sword wave. Creak! However, at this moment, the heavy stone door slowly broke open from the inside. Swoosh! Immediately, a figure darted out from the Earth-level Hall and opened its mouth, swallowing the solitaire that Ningyu had slashed out. Gulp! After swallowing the solitaire, the figure that darted out from the Earth-level Hall burped and revealed a human-like expression of satisfaction. 8-legged centipede. The figure in front of him was not human, but the Earth-level Hall's hunter, the 8-legged centipede. Human, I'm very curious. The strongest among you is only a 1st-grade supremacy. How did you manage to pass through the yellow-level hall and the black-level hall? The 8-legged centipede asked doubtfully, especially the black-level hall. That Gale Wolf has been trying to get someone to help him get the white box, but to no avail. If your cultivations were much higher than Gale Wolf's, I could understand why you were able to pass through. However, your cultivations are much lower than Gale Wolf's, so it doesn't make sense for you to make it here. 8-legged centipede. What do we have to do to get us to the heaven-level hall? Ningyu asked with a grave expression. You want to go to the heaven-level hall? The 8-legged centipede raised its brows and said, There's no need to go. A huge battle is going on in the heaven-level hall. You'll only be sending yourselves to your deaths if you go. It's safer to stay in the Earth-level hall. A huge battle is going on in the heaven-level hall. Do you know who the two parties are? Ningyu's expression changed when he heard the 8-legged centipede's words. He vaguely felt that something was amiss. Logically speaking, the 8-legged centipede would not tell him about this. Chapter 959. Chapter 959. A huge cauldron. You want to know who the two parties are? The 8-legged centipede looked at Ningyu with interest and said, Let me give you a piece of advice. The Heaven Hall is being hunted by the Earthshaker, and the Earthshaker's cultivation is equivalent to a peak 5th-grade human supreme. With your strength, you'll only be cannon fodder even if you go to the Heaven Hall. Thank you for your kind reminder, Senior, but we must go to the Heaven Hall. Ningyu cupped his fists at the 8-legged centipede and said, All right, since you want to go to the Heaven Hall, I won't stop you. Follow me. The 8-legged centipede turned around and entered the Earth Hall. When the Dark Emperor saw that Ningyu wanted to enter the Earth Hall, he hurriedly said, Ningyu, are you really going? As a demonic beast, the Dark Emperor knew how powerful the 8-legged centipede was. Now that they were in the Black Hall, the 8-legged centipede couldn't do anything even if it wanted to. Once they entered the Earth Hall, the 8-legged centipede would be able to attack them without restraint. Don't worry, the 8-legged centipede is injured. It only has 50% of its peak strength. Ningyu turned around and smiled at the Dark Emperor, then sent a soul message. The Dark Emperor frowned slightly when he heard Ningyu's words. He carefully released his senses to see if the 8-legged centipede was injured. Oomph. However, just as the Dark Emperor's perception arrived beside the 8-legged centipede, the 8-legged centipede unleashed its aura and snorted coldly. In the Earth-level Great Hall, I have the final say. If you want to live, don't play any tricks. F***CK. The Dark Emperor couldn't help but curse when he sensed the terrifying aura emitting from the 8-legged centipede. He had the urge to curse at Ningyu in his heart. How was this injured? This was clearly the peak of the peak. According to the Dark Emperor's guess, the 8-legged centipede's current strength was at least equivalent to 2 Gale Wolves. They couldn't even deal with 1 Gale Wolf, let alone the 8-legged centipede. Ain't you in this? It wasn't just the Dark Emperor who was shocked. Even Yun Mu stopped moving forward and spoke hesitantly. The Talisman Supremacy's expression was similarly gloomy and a little ugly. To be honest, The talisman martial supremacy had the same thoughts as the Dark Emperor. The eight-legged centipede was too powerful. If he were to enter the Earth-Ring Grand Hall now, he might meet with misfortune. What are you waiting for? At this moment, Ningyu turned around and said, "Come here quickly. Go." The talisman martial supremacy pondered for a second. Then he gritted his teeth, grabbed Yun Mu, and flashed into the Earth-Rank Hall. Boom! Just as Talisman Marshall and company entered the Earth-Rank Great Hall, the area they were originally in suddenly collapsed. A bottomless cave appeared. Hiss! The ground collapsed, and Talisman Marshall supremacy and the others gasped. The supremacy of Talisman Marshall felt a lingering fear. If Ningyu had not allowed them to enter the Earth-level hall, they would have met with misfortune by now. Has the Abyss Cavern appeared? Suddenly, the eight-legged centipede stopped and murmured, "Looks like the Earth-level hall isn't safe either. Come with me." Swoosh! After saying that, the eight-legged centipede's figure flashed and charged into the depths of the Earth-level hall at an extremely shocking speed. Ningyu and the others followed closely behind the eight-legged centipede. The Earth-level hall was not very big. Ningyu and the others merely flew for 10 minutes and arrived at the end of the hall. Eight-legged centipede. What exactly is the meaning of this? Looking at the black-robed old man at the end of the hall, Ningyu said in a deep voice. At the end of the hall, there was an old man in black robes. The old man's cultivation was not very high. He was a third-grade mortal supremacy. However, the old man's soul force was very strong. It was at least a late-stage 8th grade. What shocked Ningyu the most was the gigantic alchemy cauldron in front of the old man. The alchemy cauldron was very big and could fit at least a dozen people. Evil god supremacy. Do you think these people are enough? The eight-legged centipede came in front of the black-robed old man and said, 3 people and 2 beasts. Barely qualified. The black-robed old man, who was addressed as Evil God Supremacy, sized up Ningyu and the others for a while before saying, "Throw them into the alchemy cauldron and give me half an hour. I guarantee that I can refine an elixir pill." "All right." The eight-legged centipede responded and charged at Ningyu in a flash. So you want to refine us into elixirs?" Looking at the eight-legged centipede charging at him, Ningyu snorted coldly. "Aren't you being too naive? I don't need you to judge whether I'm naive or not. You only need to remember that you are elixir ingredients." The eight-legged centipede stopped in front of Ningyu and said sinisterly, "Eight-legged centipede, do you still want to recover to your peak state? Throw them all into the alchemy cauldron within 30 seconds. Evil God Supremacy said coldly. "I see." Hearing Evil God Supremacy's words, Ningyu finally understood. It turned out that Evil God Supremacy was entrusted by the eight-legged centipede to help the eight-legged centipede refine elixirs so that it could recover to its peak state. Ningyu's face darkened completely. "I have no objections to you helping the eight-legged centipede refine elixirs, but if you want to use me as a medicinal ingredient, you'll have to talk about it." Eight-legged centipede, with your internal injuries, you don't need to consume any elixirs at all. At that thought, Ningyu said in a low voice, "Evil God Supremacy is using you." "Using me?" The eight-legged centipede was slightly taken aback. "Eight-legged centipede, your internal injuries will spread if you don't treat them. If you don't want to die, hurry up and do as I say." Seeing the eight-legged centipede in a daze, Evil God Supremacy berated, "Kid, you can only blame yourself for coming at the wrong time." The eight-legged centipede's wavering heart was stabilized by Evil God Supremacy's words. "Throw Ningyu into the alchemy cauldron, refine elixirs, and recover to peak state." That was what the eight-legged centipede was thinking. Damn it! Since the eight-legged centipede did not listen to his advice, Ningyu could only wield the red demon sword and engage in an intense battle with the eight-legged centipede. Solitaire. Ningyu waved the red demon sword in his hand repeatedly, slashing out several sword waves in the air. Countless sword waves blasted towards the eight-legged centipede in an earth-shattering manner. "Let's retreat." Talisman Supremacy did not want to fight with the eight-legged centipede. After all, in his opinion, the eight-legged centipede was a peak fourth-grade human supreme martial artist and was extremely powerful. Ningyu would be courting death if he fought with it this time. What? However, just as Talisman Supremacy took a few steps back, his eyes widened and his face was filled with shock. In the Earth-level hall, after slashing out several sword waves, Ningyu's figure gradually turned illusory. In the next moment, Ningyu appeared in front of the eight-legged centipede. Triple birth palm. As he bellowed, three huge palm prints separated from Ningyu's palm and slapped towards the eight-legged centipede. Child's Play. Chapter 960. Evil God Supremacy. You might not be afraid of the three births palm at your peak, but right now, you're only left with 50% of your strength. Ningyu's eyes turned cold as he snorted at the arrogant actions of the eight-horned centipede. Before Ningyu could finish his cold snort, several muffled sounds came from beside his ears. Pa! 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 After the dull sounds, the eight-horned centipede was sent flying like a kite with a broken string before it managed to stabilize itself. What? Seeing the eight-horned centipede defeated by Ningyu in a single move, the expression of the evil god's supremacy changed drastically. Although she knew that the eight-horned centipede wasn't at its peak, it was still a rank 8 middle-stage demonic beast. There was no reason for it to lose to a half-step sovereign realm cultivator. Gulp. Not only was the evil god's supremacy shocked, even the Dark Emperor and the rest couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Unexpected, this was simply too unexpected. The Dark Emperor and the rest didn't think that Ningyu was a match for the eight-horned centipede, but the reality made them feel ashamed. Not only did Ningyu defeat the eight-horned centipede, he did it cleanly. Ningyu's strength is actually this strong. The Talisman Supremacy took a deep breath and murmured. If the Talisman Supremacy still wanted to find a chance to launch a sneak attack on Ningyu in the past, then from now on, that thought had completely vanished from her mind. Sneak attack on Ningyu? What a joke. Ningyu's strength was so heaven-defying that even the eight-horned centipede wasn't a match for him, not to mention her, who was only a grade 1 sovereign. Dark Emperor, Ningyu defeated the eight-horned centipede in a single move. The metal-devouring demon lion swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, "Are you blind? Didn't you see it yourself?" The Dark Emperor kicked the metal-devouring demon lion and said proudly, "I've already said that Ningyu is very strong and told you not to worry, but you didn't believe me. What did you say?" The metal-devouring demon lion couldn't expose the Dark Emperor on the surface, so it could only make sarcastic remarks. After this move, Ningyu did not continue to attack. Instead, he moved his feet and stood in front of the eight-legged centipede. Eight-legged centipede, I told you long ago that you didn't need any medicinal pills to recover from your injuries, but you didn't believe me and insisted on refining us into medicinal pills. Now are you satisfied? Go for wool and come home shorn. Ningyu shrugged and said, "Give me half an hour, and I'll be able to cure you completely." Eight-legged centipede, you mustn't believe this kid. He's definitely up to no good. The evil god's eyes flickered indeterminately as he spoke coldly. I'll give you 3 minutes to consider. Ningyu took one last look at the eight-legged centipede, then walked towards the evil god Venerable. Looking at the approaching Ningyu, the evil god Venerable shouted, "Eight-legged centipede, if you don't want to die, then hurry up and kill this kid. Otherwise, the poison will attack your heart and kill you." The eight-legged centipede was caught in a dilemma. On one hand, he wanted to kill Ningyu, but on the other hand, he was wary of Ningyu's strength. Previously, he was defeated by Ningyu in a single move because he was careless and did not take Ningyu seriously. He was confident that if he were to attack again, he would definitely not be defeated by Ningyu. Should I attack or not? The eight-legged centipede's eyes darted around, trying to think of a countermeasure. Evil God Venerable. At this moment, Ningyu had already arrived in front of the evil God Venerable. First, he sized up the evil God Venerable. Then Ningyu said, "Tell me where you came from." You want to know where I came from? You'll have to defeat me first." The evil god Venerable snorted coldly. Bang! However, as soon as the evil god Venerable's cold snort ended, he felt his body lighten as he flew backward. The sound of a body hitting the wall resounded. Venerable evil god spewed a mouthful of blood, and his aura instantly fell from third-grade mortal sovereign to first-grade mortal sovereign. Furthermore, the evil god Venerable's aura was still falling. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me where you came from, or I'll let you know the meaning of cruelty. Ningyu said, Don't even think about getting any information from me. The evil god Venerable clenched his fists as he fiercely said, Oh, you're pretty stubborn. The Dark Emperor took a step forward as the corner of his lips rose. Ningyu, hand him over to me. I guarantee that I'll let him know the meaning of cruelty. Go. What's the use of letting him know the meaning of cruelty? Ningyu kicked the Dark Emperor and said, I want to know his origin and the overall situation of the Beast King Palace. Ningyu, if you trust me, you can hand him over to me. There's a secret technique in the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion that can extract the memories of others. The Talisman Venerable's words resounded in Ningyu's ears. After a brief hesitation, Ningyu said, I'll leave the evil god Venerable to you. I hope that you can force him to tell me everything as soon as possible. After saying that, Ningyu turned around and walked towards the 8-legged centipede. So you're called Ningyu? The 8-legged centipede stared at Ningyu as he growled. Although I'm injured, my strength isn't greatly affected. Don't bother with those empty words. I can heal your injuries, but you have to swear an oath to the heavens that you will absolutely obey me. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating for the 8-legged centipede to stop with the nonsense. That's impossible. The 8-legged centipede flatly refused Ningyu without even thinking about it. As a mid-8th rank monster beast, the 8-legged centipede had only ever submitted to a single person in its life. That was the Beast King who had trapped it in the Beast King Palace. Besides the Beast King, the 8-legged centipede would never submit to anyone. Since that's the case, I can only send you to hell. Ningyu shrugged and said, You want to kill me? You think it's that easy? The 8-legged centipede growled, deciding to attack first before Ningyu. Shua! Reality had defeated the 8-legged centipede. Ningyu stomped his feet on the ground, and his body instantly shot forward, arriving in front of the 8-legged centipede. He raised the red demon sword in his hand and placed it across the 8-legged centipede's neck. Will you obey or not? Ningyu coldly said. Impossible. The 8-legged centipede was rather arrogant. Its expression did not change, even when Ningyu placed a flying sword on its neck. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Ningyu raised his eyebrows. He exerted a little force with the red demon sword in his hand and pierced the 8-legged centipede's skin. Drip! Drip! Fresh blood dripped down the 8-legged centipede's neck, making a crisp sound. How about this? We'll each take a step back. You don't have to obey me. Suddenly, Ningyu glanced at the Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu, who were busy at the other side. He lowered his voice and said, My condition is very simple. As long as you promise to help me look after the Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu, I'll heal you and let you return to your peak. Are you serious? The 8-legged centipede's eyes widened when it heard that. Of course, Ningyu said, Deal, but you and I have to swear a heavenly oath because I don't trust the humans of the Sky Demon region. The 8-legged centipede said in a deep voice. Hee, you don't trust the humans of the Sky Demon region? Isn't the evil god Supremacy also from the Sky Demon region? Ningyu smiled faintly. The evil god Supremacy isn't from the Sky Demon region. He's from the Ice region. Chapter 961. Yellow Dragon Pill. According to the evil god Supremacy, the Sacred Heaven Sect sent a total of 4 martial artists this time. One of them is a 5th-grade human supreme, 2 are 4th-grade human supreme, and the last one is him, a 3rd-grade human supreme. Not far away, the Talisman Supremacy slowly retracted his palm from the evil god Supremacy's head and said in a deep voice. Ningyu's expression was a little ugly. With his current strength, He could kill a third-grade human supreme and go against a fourth-grade human supreme. Unless the sapling came out to help, he could only bear a grudge against a fifth-grade human supreme. After the sapling devoured the energy in the pit, it had already fallen into a deep sleep. No one knew when it would wake up. It was completely foolish to think of relying on the sapling at this time. Do you know their motive? Ningyu tried hard to calm himself down. Although a fifth-grade human supreme was powerful, he didn't have to worry too much. After all, there were definitely other fifth-grade human supreme in the Heaven Grade Hall or the Core Hall. Ningyu didn't believe that the people behind the evil god supremacy would take the initiative to attack him. Mystic Moon Jade Pendant. The Talisman Supremacy said they came to the Beast King Hall this time to obtain the Mystic Moon Jade Pendant from the Beast King Hall, and at this point, the Talisman Supremacy paused slightly. He then continued. The evil god supremacy also wants to search for the extreme Een body in the Great Xia Kingdom. Ningyu sucked in a breath of cold air and thought to himself that it was a close call. If the Sacred Heaven sect didn't send a half-step supremacy martial artist, but the evil god supremacy, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that time, Ningyu's cultivation was very low, and his strength was terrible. If he met the evil god supremacy, only death would await him. Ningyu, according to the evil god supremacy, there seems to be an extreme Een body in the Beast King Hall. The Talisman Supremacy said again that Mystic Moon Jade Pendant is with the extreme Een body. Keep an eye on Venerable Evil God. No matter what, don't let him inform the others in the Sacred Heaven sect. If necessary, kill him. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said, I'll go treat the eight-legged centipede first. You two will be responsible for guarding me. With that said, Ningyu moved his feet, arriving in front of the eight-legged centipede and began to treat it. He placed his hands on the back of the eight-legged centipede, and strands of essence flowed through his palms into the body of the eight-legged centipede. Relax your mind, don't resist. Sensing the eight-legged centipede's slight resistance, Ningyu berated. The eight-legged centipede's internal injuries were very serious. Even if he did not resist, Ningyu might not be able to heal him, let alone resist. All right, I'll believe you this once. The eight-legged centipede gritted its teeth. In fact, the eight-legged centipede was deeply opposed to Ningyu. However, despite its resistance, the eight-legged centipede knew that it had to trust Ningyu. Otherwise, only death awaited it. Dark Emperor, tell me honestly, how strong is Ningyu's combat strength now? Seeing Ningyu treating the eight-legged centipede, the metal-devouring demon lion said with a solemn tone. They had encountered too many dangers along the way, and even the metal-devouring demon lion was a little afraid. They had already arrived at the Earth Grade Hall, and they still had to go to the Heaven Grade Hall later. The Heaven Grade Hall was where the Earth Shaker, a fifth-grade human supreme, resided. If Ningyu's strength was not a fifth-grade human supreme, wouldn't he be sending himself to his death? Pah! The Dark Emperor's tail swept across the body of the metal-devouring demon lion. Just do what I tell you to do. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? The Dark Emperor said coldly. Not long ago, Ningyu told you that if you were unwilling to follow, you could leave the Beast King Hall. You were the one who chose to follow, and now you're worried? The metal-devouring demon lion did not dare to talk back after being reprimanded by the Dark Emperor. Back in the Yellow Great Hall, the metal-devouring demon lion had already sworn an oath to obey the Dark Emperor. If the Dark Emperor was angered, he might very well die. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. Pucci! Ningyu exerted force with both hands and struck the back of the eight-legged centipede. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, the eight-legged centipede felt the condition of its body and revealed a joyful expression. Thank you. The eight-legged centipede was not someone who did not know how to repay kindness. He turned around and cupped his fist at Ningyu. I will definitely do what I promised you. Rest for a while. We will set off in half an hour for the Heaven Grade Hall. Ningyu waved his hand, signaling for the eight-legged centipede to make use of the time to rest. The Heaven Grade Hall was very dangerous. If he did not recover to his peak state, he might encounter a mishap. Whoosh! The next moment, Ningyu stomped on the ground and leaped up. So many herbs? Hovering above the huge cauldron, Ningyu looked into the interior of the cauldron. In his previous life, Ningyu was a pinnacle 9th grade human sovereign, so he had seen most of the herbs. Ningyu knew all the herbs in the evil god Venerable's cauldron. So he's refining elixirs to break through to 4th grade human sovereign. The evil god Venerable was more ambitious. His true goal was to use the 8-legged centipede to refine an elixir that could allow him to advance to 4th grade human sovereign. Yellow Dragon Elixir. The Yellow Dragon Elixir was a pinnacle 8th grade elixir, and its medicinal effect was even more terrifying than the Great Cyclic Elixir. Ningyu did not doubt that as long as the evil god Venerable could refine the Yellow Dragon Elixir, he would definitely advance to 4th grade human sovereign. Talisman Venerable, bring the evil god Venerable over. Ningyu barked. Swish! Talisman Venerable grabbed the evil god Venerable's shoulder and brought him to Ningyu's side. Hand over the Yellow Dragon Essence. Ningyu extended his hand and said, I don't know what the Yellow Dragon Essence is. The evil god Venerable's eyes flickered as he spoke. Don't think that I don't know. Ningyu snorted coldly before sending a voice transmission to the evil god Venerable, Yellow Dragon Elixir. What? Hearing Ningyu's words, the evil god Venerable's face drastically changed. The Yellow Dragon Elixir was a pinnacle 8th grade elixir. Even in the Sacred Heaven Gate, not many people knew about it. As a half-step supreme being, how did Ningyu know about it? The evil god Venerable was puzzled. You have 2 choices now. First, help me refine the Yellow Dragon Elixir. I'll give you half an hour. Second, hand over the Yellow Dragon Essence. I'll refine the Yellow Dragon Elixir myself. Ningyu said, You want to refine the Yellow Dragon Elixir too? The evil god Venerable opened his mouth and laughed loudly. You don't know your place. You're only a 7th grade pill refinement master, yet you want to refine a pinnacle 8th grade elixir. How arrogant. It seems like you've made your choice. Ningyu's face darkened. In the next moment, Ningyu charged out with a red devil sword in his hand. You can't. Uffed. Seeing Ningyu charging towards him, the evil god Venerable panicked and shouted. However, this time, Ningyu had no intention of letting the evil god Venerable go. Before the evil god Venerable could finish shouting, he spat out a mouthful of blood. I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Ningyu kept the red devil sword and said calmly, Brat, I'm from the Sacred Heaven sect. You, the evil god Venerable pointed at Ningyu. Just as he was about to say something harsh, his body fell backward. Chapter 962. Chapter 962. Collapse. Hiss. Seeing Ningyu mercilessly kill the evil god, Venerable Talisman Marshal and Yunmu sucked in a breath of cold air. Not only was Ningyu strong, but he was also decisive when doing things. When it came to enemies, he would kill them without any hesitation. After killing the evil god, Ningyu squatted down and rummaged through his body. After a while, Ningyu found a palm-sized object on the evil god Venerable's body. Yellow Dragon Essence. This palm-sized object was called the Yellow Dragon Essence. It was an essential ingredient for refining the Yellow Dragon Pill. Venerable Talisman Marshal, go to the side and recuperate. Once I'm done refining this pill, we'll set off for the Heaven Hall. Ningyu turned around and said, No problem. Venerable Talisman Marshal and Yunmu responded and found an area in the Earth Hall to sit down and recuperate. Although Venerable Talisman Marshal was recuperating, her perception remained on the pill furnace. The evil god's memories were extracted by Venerable Talisman Marshal, so she knew that the pill furnace was refining the Yellow Dragon Pill. If I can get a Yellow Dragon Pill, I can even advance to Grade 2 Human Supreme. Venerable Talisman Marshal's face was burning. There were many ingredients needed to refine the Yellow Dragon Pill, and it was difficult to gather them all. A force like the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion was naturally difficult to find, especially the Yellow Dragon Essence. Not to mention a force like the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion. Even forces like the Blood God Palace and the Corpse Sect would find it hard to find. What a pity. The yellow dragon pill is a peak grade 8 pill. Ningyu is a grade 7 alchemist, but he's just messing around. Thinking that Ningyu's soul force was only at the early grade 7, Venerable Talisman Marshal was a little disappointed. An early grade 7 alchemist refining a peak grade 8 pill? Unheard of. Just like the evil god, Venerable Talisman Marshal did not believe that Ningyu could succeed. Rise! Ningyu did not know what Venerable Talisman Marshal was thinking, but even if he knew, he would just laugh it off. Waving his hands repeatedly, a trace of blue flame gushed out from Ningyu's wrist and began to frantically burn the bottom of the pill furnace. Although the azure spiritual fire wasn't a top-grade flame, it was enough to refine a yellow dragon pill. Chi-chi. As time passed, the temperature in the furnace became higher and higher, and the medicinal herbs inside gradually turned into medicinal liquid. Go in. After about 10 minutes, Ningyu flicked his wrist and threw the yellow dragon essence in the furnace. Just as the yellow dragon spirit was thrown into the pill furnace, Ningyu injected yuan qi into his wrist and began to increase the intensity of the flame to burn the pill furnace. When refining a yellow dragon pill, the most important thing was fire control. The requirement for the strength of one's soul power wasn't very high. Of course, not everyone could refine the yellow dragon pill. Drip, drip. Time flew by quickly, and the sweat on Ningyu's forehead kept dripping. Fortunately, the evil god Venerable has already completed the first few steps. Otherwise, with my strength, I really wouldn't be able to refine the yellow dragon pill. At this moment, Ningyu felt a little fortunate. Fortunately, the evil god Venerable had successfully completed the preparatory work. Otherwise, without external help, Ningyu definitely wouldn't be able to refine the yellow dragon pill. But even so, Ningyu still didn't dare to relax. Ningyu refined the yellow dragon pill. The 8-legged centipede and the talisman martial supremacy were recuperating, and the Dark Emperor and the metal-devouring demon lion were paying attention to the talisman martial supremacy. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. Rumble. Half an hour later, an earth-shattering sound echoed in the Earth-level hall. Kacha! After the loud sound, the evil god Venerable's gigantic pill furnace suddenly exploded. Swish! Ningyu's eyes and hands were sharp. In the blink of an eye, he flew out and grabbed a slightly yellow pill in his hand. Phew! Slowly opening his hand and looking at the round pill in his palm, Ningyu couldn't help but let out a long breath. Upper-grade yellow dragon pill. To be able to refine an upper-grade yellow dragon pill in such a short period of time, Ningyu was already very satisfied. What? From afar, the talisman martial supremacy saw the pill in Ningyu's hand. His eyes widened, and his face was filled with confusion. Ningyu actually refined the yellow dragon pill, and the quality was even upper grade. What was going on with this world? Could it be that Ningyu was pretending to be weak, and his true soul force wasn't at the early stage of 7th grade, but at the peak of 8th grade? At the thought of this, the talisman martial supremacy immediately concealed the crooked thoughts in his heart. The shocks that Ningyu gave him were simply too great, one after another. Now, even if Ningyu told the talisman martial supremacy that his cultivation wasn't at the half-step supreme realm, but 3rd grade human supreme realm, the talisman martial supremacy would still choose to believe him. Why don't I take this opportunity to swallow the yellow dragon pill and strive to improve further? Ningyu gritted his teeth and raised his palm, wanting to swallow the yellow dragon pill. Crack! However, before Ningyu could toss the yellow dragon pill into his mouth, a horrified expression appeared on his face. Because the scene that happened in the Black Level Hall not long ago was happening again in the Earth Level Hall. Oh no, it's the Deep Abyss Cave. The 8-legged centipede instantly stood up from the ground and said in a deep voice, "The Earth Level Hall is no longer safe. Everyone, follow me into the Heaven Level Hall." Swoosh! With that, the 8-legged centipede rushed out and headed for the Heaven Level Hall. Let's go. Ningyu knew the severity of the problem. He stomped on the ground and followed closely behind the 8-legged centipede. Seeing that Ningyu and the 8-legged centipede had left, the talisman martial supremacy and the rest did not delay and disappeared as well. Swoosh! Luckily, Ningyu and the rest ran fast. Otherwise, they would definitely end up vanishing into thin air. That was because not long after they left, the area that they were originally in completely collapsed. The collapse of the Earth level hall this time was different from the Black level hall. The Black level hall collapsed bit by bit, but the Earth level hall collapsed in large areas. The entrance to the Heaven level hall is right ahead. All of you move aside. I'll blast it open. At that moment, at the end of the Earth level hall, the 8-legged centipede growled and swung its gigantic tail at the wall in front of it. Rumble. After recovering to its peak state, the 8-legged centipede's strength increased tremendously. The wall connecting the Earth level hall and the Heaven level hall collapsed with a swing of its tail. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As the wall collapsed, Ningyu and the rest burrowed straight in. Rumble. The moment Ningyu and the rest stepped into the Heaven level hall, the Earth level hall collapsed completely. There was not a single piece of intact ground. Gulp. The talisman martial supremacy and the rest swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Dangerous. It was really too dangerous. Any later, and they would have been annihilated. Right? Didn't they say that there's an earth shaker in the Heaven level hall? Why didn't I see a single shadow? While the talisman martial supremacy and the rest were still in shock, Ningyu had already shifted his attention to the Heaven level hall. The demonic beasts they encountered along the way all said that there was an earth shaker in the Heaven level hall that was equivalent to a grade 5 human supreme. The 8-legged centipede even said that there was a huge battle in the Heaven level hall. The current situation in the Heaven level hall did not look like there was a huge battle at all. It was as empty as a field. One could see the end of it with a single glance. Chapter 963. Negotiating Conditions. I did mention that a huge battle was going on in the Heaven level hall. However, I did not mention anything about it happening here. The 8-legged centipede said, "This is the Heaven level hall. Where else would it happen if not here?" Ningyu was puzzled. "Follow me." With that, the 8-legged centipede headed straight ahead. Ningyu wasn't the only one who was dumbfounded by the 8-legged centipede's actions. Even the Reverend Talisman Marshal and the others looked helpless. The Heaven level hall could be seen as far as the eye could see. There was no way a huge battle would happen here. Creak. Suddenly, the 8-legged centipede stopped in front of a wall. A cold beam of light shot out from the 8-legged centipede's mouth and struck the wall. The moment the beam of light came into contact with the wall opened up slowly. Secret chamber? Ningyu frowned as he looked at the opening wall. This is the real Heaven level hall. It's just a passageway outside. The 8-legged centipede pointed at the opening wall. Didn't you say that there was a huge battle going on in the Heaven level hall? Aren't you afraid of being implicated? Ningyu was puzzled when he saw that the 8-legged centipede was about to enter the Heaven level hall. The battle is over. With that, the 8-legged centipede stepped into the secret chamber in a flash. Damn it! Cursing under his breath, Ningyu stomped on the ground and disappeared behind the 8-legged centipede. F***CK. The moment he entered the secret chamber, Ningyu couldn't help but curse. It wasn't that the 8-legged centipede had lied to him. It was because he saw a shocking scene in the Heaven level hall. In the middle of the Heaven level hall, a massive creature was sprawled on the ground. Earthshaker. The massive creature sprawled on the ground was none other than the Earthshaker. Right now, Earthshaker was in an extremely wretched state. Not only were all the horns on his head broken, even his aura had dropped to a freezing point. 8-legged centipede. Why did you bring these humans here? Earthshaker raised his massive eyelids and asked weakly. Of course it's to treat you. The 8-legged centipede glared at the Earthshaker, then turned around and said to Ningyu, "Your medical skills are excellent. I believe you can cure the Earthshaker. You want me to treat Earthshaker?" Ningyu opened his mouth, feeling a little incredulous. Earthshaker was a 5th-grade human supreme. Even though he was injured, he was still very strong. The 8-legged centipede had already given Ningyu a hard time, and now there was the Earthshaker. There was an 80% chance that he would have to pull the plug. "Ningyu, if you can cure Earthshaker, I will let him accompany us to the core hall." Seeing that Ningyu was hesitating, the eight-legged centipede hurriedly said. The earth shaker was seriously injured, and if he was not treated in time, he could die at any time. From the eight-legged centipede's point of view, if Ningyu could cure him, then he could definitely cure the earth shaker as well. Perhaps you don't know the dangers of the core hall. Seeing that Ningyu still did not respond, the eight-legged centipede gritted its teeth and said, the earth shaker was a fifth-grade human supreme at his peak, and his strength was even comparable to an ordinary sixth-grade human supreme. Even so, he was still surrounded by several experts and was on the verge of death. How did the earth shaker survive? Ningyu was puzzled. Logically speaking, a powerful demonic beast like the earth shaker should be a treasure from head to toe. There was no reason for others to gang up on him just to injure him. They originally wanted to kill me. At this moment, the earth shaker said, but at the crucial moment, the artifact cave started shooting out treasures and elixirs, so all those who surrounded me went to the core hall. The artifact cave? Ningyu frowned slightly. The artifact cave is located in the core hall, and every once in a while, it will shoot out treasures and elixirs. The earth shaker explained. I heard that the treasures and elixirs shot out by the artifact cave are extremely precious, at least 8th grade. That's why I was able to survive. Otherwise, with those experts ganging up on me, I wouldn't have stood a chance. Is that so? Ningyu fell into deep thought. If things were really as the earth shaker said, then he would only die if he went to the core hall now. However, Ningyu did not really believe the earth shaker's words. After all, he had never crossed paths with the earth shaker. It's not impossible for me to cure you, but I have a condition. After a moment of silence, Ningyu said, we will agree to any condition. The eight-legged centipede quickly said, afraid that Ningyu would go back on his word. Don't agree too early. My condition is that for the next month, the earth shaker and you must listen to my orders unconditionally. Ningyu said, what? Hearing Ningyu's words, the earth shaker god Ox was instantly enraged and roared, a half-step supreme being brat actually dares to say such words to me? I think you must be tired of living. If that's the case, I'll have to ask you to find someone else. Ningyu shrugged, indicating that he did not care. After all, the earth shaker's life and death had nothing to do with him. Ningyu, can you change your condition? The eight-legged centipede asked in a low voice. Forget it. When you change your mind, come find me. Waving his hand, Ningyu found a place to sit down and close his eyes to rest. Although Ningyu was resting with his eyes closed, his attention was on the earth shaker. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. If the earth shaker were to fly into a rage, he might be in danger. Under such circumstances, it was better to be careful. Eight-legged centipede. How do you know such an arrogant human? The earth shaker said angrily. Sigh, the injuries on my body were healed by him. The eight-legged centipede sighed and said, I see that your injuries are very serious. If you don't get treated in time, you might die within an hour. Why don't say any more. Even if I die, I won't obey a half-step honorable martial artist. The earth shaker interrupted the eight-legged centipede and said coldly, what a joke. The earth shaker was the king of the beasts. He was extremely powerful. In the entire magical beast ridge, the only beasts that were more powerful than the earth shaker were the 4 guardian deities under the beast king. Other than that, the earth shaker could be said to be the absolute overlord of the magical beast ridge. How about this? I'll be the witness. Each of you take a step back. The eight-legged centipede's eyes rolled as it said in a clear voice. As long as Ningyu can heal the earth shaker will obey Ningyu from the moment he recovers until he leaves the Beast King's palace. I have no objections. After thinking about it, Ningyu felt that this was a feasible idea. However, Ningyu added, other than this, I have another condition. The earth shaker cannot attack me no matter when and where. Ningyu did not want to be a saint. He had to be careful, and more careful. If he cured the earth shaker and the earth shaker left the Beast King's palace, the earth shaker would attack him. Chapter 964. Let me think about it. Everyone wanted to live, and the earth shaker was no exception. Everyone wanted to live, and earth shaker was no exception. Ningyu glanced at the earth shaker and said, Your injuries are very serious. You'll have to reimburse me for all the medicinal herbs needed to treat you later, or I'll definitely suffer a huge loss. Ningyu glanced at Earthshaker and said, Your injuries are very serious. You'll have to reimburse me for all the medicinal herbs needed to treat you, or else I'll definitely suffer a great loss. Ningyu had already secretly observed the Earthshaker. The Earthshaker's injuries were much more serious than the eight-legged centipede's. There was no way to cure the Earthshaker using normal methods. Therefore, Ningyu decided to use essence crystals and medicinal herbs. To cure the Earthshaker, too many things had to be spent, and Ningyu might even become extremely weak as a result. Ningyu counted all these costs on the eight-legged centipede and the Earthshaker. No problem, as long as it's necessary, will definitely satisfy you. The eight-legged centipede patted its chest and guaranteed. Over the years, many martial artists had entered the Beast King's Hall. There were also many martial artists who wanted to kill the eight-legged centipede and the Earthshaker. However, there was no doubt that all the martial artists who had entered the Earth-level and Heaven-level halls in the past had their treasures and medicinal herbs stolen by the Earthshaker and the eight-legged centipede. At the moment, they had a lot of treasures and medicinal herbs on them. If they were to take them all out, they could even support the operation of a large sect for a long time. I need a quiet environment. Ningyu said, Guard me. Don't let anyone disturb me. The eight-legged centipede and the talisman Supremacy guarded the surroundings to prevent anyone from suddenly attacking. As for Ningyu, he took a deep breath and tried his best to adjust his mental state to its optimal state. After all, he was treating the Earthshaker, so Ningyu did not dare to be negligent. Relax your mind. No matter what happens later, don't resist. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu extended his perception and carefully entered Earthshaker's body. Hiss! Ningyu gasped when he saw the condition of Earthshaker's body. Terrifying. It was too terrifying. At this time, Earthshaker's 5 viscera and 6 bowels were all pitch black, and traces of black gas were coming out of them. Any later, and even a deity won't be able to cure you. Ningyu sat cross-legged next to Earthshaker. His rank, 7 soul force, flew out and entered Earthshaker's body. To cure Earthshaker, the first step was to expel the black gas from his body. The black gas was extremely corrosive. After a while, Earthshaker's internal organs would be completely corroded. As soon as Ningyu's soul force touched Earthshaker's heart, the black gas showed its power and crazily eroded Earthshaker's body. The immense pain caused Earthshaker to let out a blood-curdling screech. Don't make a sound if you don't want to die, Ningyu scolded. Just now, Earthshaker's loud roar almost made Ningyu make a mistake. Ningyu did not dare to act recklessly when it was a matter of life and death. Withdrawing his soul force and perception, Ningyu used 3 seconds to recover. Under Ningyu's scolding, Earthshaker finally became obedient. No matter how much pain his body was in, he chose to grit his teeth and bear it. Swoosh! The second time he treated Earthshaker, because Earthshaker was more cooperative, 3 minutes later, a black gas flew out of Earthshaker's body. Swoosh! Swoosh! As soon as this black gas touched the air, it turned into nothingness and vanished. Time passed very slowly. Every time Ningyu expelled a black gas, Earthshaker would twitch slightly. About half an hour later, when Ningyu expelled all the black gas from Earthshaker's body, Earthshaker revealed a relieved expression. Awesome. His body felt light without pain. This feeling was very refreshing. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect that I would return to my peak state. You guys joined forces to injure me. I must take revenge. Earthshaker laughed wildly and then said coldly, Revenge my ass. You're beyond cure. Ningyu gave Earthshaker a wake-up call. Earthshaker was slightly embarrassed. Just as Earthshaker's awkward smile appeared, he let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. Ningyu, what's going on? Hearing Earthshaker scream, the 8-legged centipede flew over and asked anxiously. It's nothing. The energy in Earthshaker's body is dissipating very quickly. He needs to replenish it urgently. Ningyu shrugged and explained, Now, give Earthshaker all the elixirs herbs, and anything that can replenish his energy. Why? The eight-legged centipede was puzzled. This might be a good opportunity for Earthshaker. Ningyu said, "The black gas I expelled is very corrosive. It took the useless energy in Earthshaker's body with it. If there's a large amount of energy, Earthshaker might even make a breakthrough and become a 6th grade human supreme." Holy shit! Hearing this, the eight-legged centipede was shocked. Not only was the eight-legged centipede surprised, but even Earthshaker himself was a little excited. Whoosh! In the next moment, Earthshaker swallowed all the elixirs, crystals, and herbs he had on him in one go. Apart from what he had looted recently, Earthshaker also swallowed all the elixirs and herbs the eight-legged centipede had given him. Puff! Even so, Earthshaker was still lacking energy, a lot of it. Ningyu, do you have any primary crystals? If you do, take them out and we'll lend them to you. After swallowing everything that could be swallowed, the eight-legged centipede shifted its attention to Ningyu. I don't have any. Ningyu rejected it straight away. My stuff is meant to save my life. I won't give it to you. Earthshaker screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Furthermore, Earthshaker was in a miserable state. Ningyu, what do you want in exchange for the elixirs you refine? Seeing Earthshaker's miserable state, the eight-legged centipede blurted out. You should know. Ningyu said the first sentence in front of the talisman supremacy and the others, while the second sentence was directed at the Earthshaker and the eight-legged centipede. I want you to swear a heavenly oath to obey me for a year. In your dreams. Both Earthshaker and the eight-legged centipede rejected him at the same time. Don't say I didn't warn you. If Earthshaker can't find any energy to replenish himself within 3 minutes, he might explode and die. Ningyu said, I still want to use the yellow dragon elixir to advance to the supreme realm. If I hand it over to you, what will I do when I'm in danger? I've already done my best by letting you serve me for a year. Chapter 965. 3 parts what? The eight-legged centipede was shocked to hear Ningyu's words. Earthshaker, swallow the yellow dragon elixir. How confident are you in advancing to the 6th grade human supreme realm? It was no wonder that the eight-legged centipede was shocked. At their level, it was extremely difficult for demonic beasts to increase their cultivation by another level. If earth-shaking Godly Bull were to cultivate from 5th grade human sovereign to 6th grade human sovereign by himself, it would take him at least a few decades. Now, there was a chance for it to directly advance from 5th grade human supreme to 6th grade human supreme, and the price it had to pay was to serve Ningyu for a year. The eight-legged centipede was tempted. 90%. Earthshaker's answer was even more than what Ningyu had said. He was 90% confident. In other words, as long as Earthshaker swallowed the yellow dragon elixir, he would be able to advance to the 6th grade human supreme realm. Then what are you waiting for? Say yes to Ningyu. The eight-legged centipede said in a deep voice, we have to lower our heads when we're under someone else's roof. All right. After hearing what the eight-legged centipede said, the Earthshaker gritted his teeth and said, Ningyu, I agree to serve you for a year, but I have a condition. You can't order me to do things that I can't do. Deal. The corners of Ningyu's mouth curled up. After the eight-legged centipede and the Earthshaker swore their oaths, he flicked his wrist and threw the Huang Longdan out. Kacha! Earth-shaking Godly Ox stomped his feet on the ground and rushed out in an instant. While in midair, Earthshaker caught the yellow dragon pill, opened his mouth wide, and swallowed it into his stomach. Eight-legged centipede, protect Earthshaker and be ready to transfer energy to him at any time. After Earthshaker swallowed the yellow dragon pill, his pained expression gradually weakened. However, Ningyu still told the eight-legged centipede not to be careless and to be ready to transfer energy to the Earthshaker at any time. For a powerful demonic beast like the Earthshaker to advance to the 6th grade human sovereign realm, the energy required was enormous. A single yellow dragon pellet might not be enough. Understood. The eight-legged centipede knew how serious the problem was. This was the best chance for Earthshaker to advance to the 6th grade Human Supreme stage within a short period of time. The 8-legged centipede would not allow any accidents to happen to it. In fact, the 8-legged centipede had helped Earthshaker only because Earthshaker had saved his life a long time ago. At that time, he was besieged by several monsters from the Magic Beast mountain range. If not for Earthshaker's timely appearance, he would have been dead long ago. Now that the Earthshaker was in trouble, the 8-legged centipede would definitely help. Ningyu, not bad, not bad. You actually managed to capture 2 powerful demonic beasts. The Earthshaker was refining the yellow dragon pellet, while the 8-legged centipede was guarding him. The Dark Emperor moved to Ningyu's side and said, "With the 2 of them, we will be more confident when we enter the core hall. Don't talk about useless things. Before we enter the core hall, we still have something important to do." Ningyu waved his hand and said, "Something else?" The Dark Emperor was slightly startled and said, "What is it?" Little flying pythons come out. With a thought, a huge beam of light shot out from Ningyu's storage ring. Whoosh! Then, 4 figures appeared in the hall. 4 little flying pythons. Initially, the Dark Emperor and the gold-devouring demon lion brought these 4 little flying pythons. However, when they encountered the 3-headed snake, Ningyu had already asked them to enter the storage ring. The little flying pythons had limited strength, so it would be dangerous to keep them around. Now that they had arrived at the heaven-level hall and the danger had been resolved, Ningyu would definitely ask the little flying pythons to appear. After all, Ningyu still had something important to do, which was to find the python trapping formation and destroy it. This is the heaven-level hall in the inner area. I'll give you a chance to find the python trapping formation, Ningyu said in a deep voice. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. As soon as the 4 little flying pythons appeared, they flew toward a corner of the heaven-level hall. Dark Emperor, wait here for a moment. I'll be right back. After saying this, Ningyu's figure flickered and disappeared behind the little flying pythons. The 4 little flying pythons seemed to be very familiar with the heaven-level hall. They led Ningyu around the hall. Around 10 minutes later, the 4 little flying pythons stopped in front of a secret chamber. You mean the python trapping formation is inside? Ningyu pointed at the secret chamber in front of him and asked in confusion. The little flying pythons nodded in unison, expressing their agreement with Ningyu's words. All right, you guys move aside first. Ningyu waved his hand and gestured for the little flying pythons to move aside. Whoosh. Subsequently, Ningyu held the Red Fiend's sword in his hand, injected his Yuan Qi into the Red Fiend's sword, and slashed. Kacha! The huge sword Qi bombarded the stone door of the secret room, directly shattering the stone door. As soon as the secret chamber was broken, Ningyu walked in first. F***CK. As soon as he entered the secret chamber, Ningyu was shocked by the situation in front of him. The secret chamber, which was not considered big, was divided into 3 parts. The first part was occupied by a gigantic formation, Python Trapping Formation. Without a doubt, this formation was the Python Trapping Formation. The second part was occupied by a pile of Yuan crystals. Royal Grade Yuan Crystals. These Yuan crystals were not Transcendent Grade Yuan crystals, nor were they King Grade Yuan crystals, but genuine Royal Grade Yuan crystals. Above King Grade Yuan crystals were Royal Grade Yuan crystals. Royal Grade Yuan crystals were extremely precious. Unless it was some large sects or clans, others were basically unable to obtain them, because Royal Grade Yuan crystals did not circulate in the market. Gulp. The first 2 parts did not attract too much attention from Ningyu. Ningyu's gaze was attracted by the last part. Flying swords, and all of them were King Grade flying swords. Heaven and Earth Sword Formation. Looking at the 4 large words on the stone tablet behind these King Grade flying swords, Ningyu could not help but gulp down a mouthful of saliva. There were a total of 7 flying swords, and their grades were all middle grade King Grade. How terrifying was the might of a sword formation formed by 7 middle grade King Grade flying swords. In the past, Ningyu had obtained a sword formation called 9 Return to 1 Sword Formation. At that time, the sword formation mainly relied on some mystic-grade flying swords and earth-grade flying swords, and its might was already very heaven-defying. The sword formation before him, that was formed from mid-grade king rank flying swords, was obviously much more formidable. Huff! Ningyu slowly let out a mouthful of foul air, and then he stepped into the secret chamber. Food had to be eaten bite by bite, and things had to be dealt with one by one. The most important task now was to deal with the Python trapping formation. Only by dealing with the Python trapping formation would he be able to obtain royal grade yuan crystals and the heaven and earth sword formation. Solitaire. Ningyu flipped his wrist and slashed out an enormous sword wave in midair. Hiss! Hiss! However, the sword wave had just come into contact with the Python trapping formation when it vanished into thin air. The sudden change caused Ningyu to fall into deep contemplation. Compared to the Python trapping formation outside the Beast King Hall, the difficulty of dealing with this Python trapping formation increased by several times. I don't believe I can't deal with you. Chapter 966. Royal Grade Origin Crystal Rumble. The speed of the sword wave was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it bombarded the Python trapping formation. However, the Python trapping formation still shook for a while before calming down again. So powerful. Seeing this, Ningyu frowned slightly and stopped his attack. Ningyu would not do useless things. Based on the current situation, even if Ningyu used up all the origin chi in his sea of consciousness, he would not be able to break the Python trapping formation. Instead of that, he might as well find a breakthrough from the source. Little flying pythons, you should know how to break this Python trapping formation. Ningyu's eyes turned, and he focused his attention on the little flying pythons. Since the little flying pythons could find this place with ease, it meant that they knew how to break the Python trapping formation. Everything should be within the 6-winged flying python's calculations. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In response to Ningyu, 4 little flying pythons flew out in unison and went straight into the Python trapping formation. The Python trapping formation, as the name suggested, trapped flying pythons. Roar, roar. The 4 little flying pythons had just entered the Python trapping formation, and they were trapped inside, crying out. Damn it! Seeing the little flying pythons' foolish behavior, Ningyu immediately became angry. As he inwardly cursed, Ningyu stomped his feet on the ground and also entered the Python trapping formation. Swoosh! Swoosh! As it turned out, the Python trapping formation was not only used to trap flying pythons. This Python trapping formation also trapped Ningyu inside. Roar! Moreover, after Ningyu entered the Python trapping formation, a loud roar suddenly sounded. Crack! Not long after, the void in front of Ningyu trembled, and an illusory flying python appeared. Peak Grade 4 6-winged flying python. Feeling the terrifying aura emitted from the illusory flying python, Ningyu's eyes widened, and his face was full of disbelief. Wasn't it just a python trapping formation? As for an illusory Peak Grade 4 Supreme Martial Artist? How dare you barge into the Mang trapping formation? Die! The illusory flying python roared, and then it tore through space to appear in front of Ningyu. With a sweep of his tail, the illusory flying python whipped him through the air towards Ningyu. I'll slash. Ningyu's expression was extremely solemn, and the red demon sword in his hand suddenly slashed out. Ding! The red demon sword made contact with the illusory flying python's tail, producing a crisp sound. What? The intense pain from the webbing between his thumb and forefinger caused Ningyu's expression to change drastically. How was this a flying python? It was clearly a steel python. The Red Fiend Sword was a monarch rank flying sword. Yet even the Red Fiend Sword was unable to break through the defenses of this illusory flying python. What exactly should they do? Ningyu's heart sank to the bottom. The current situation was very clear. Only by killing the illusory flying python could the python trapping formation be broken. And with Ning Yu's current strength, there was no way he could kill the illusory flying python. Although the aura of the illusory flying python was that of a peak 4th grade human supreme, its combat strength was even stronger than that of a peak 5th grade human supreme. What exactly should I do? Ning Yu's eyeballs turned, and he quickly thought of a countermeasure. Human doc. Just as Ning Yu was secretly thinking of a countermeasure, the illusory flying python attacked again. The illusory flying python would not hold back. Its mission was to kill any human that entered the Mang trapping formation. After all, the 4 mini flying pythons had already been trapped by the Mang trapping formation and could not unleash the combat strength that they should have. Triple birth palm. At the critical moment, Ning Yu channeled Yuan Qi into his palm. As Ning Yu let out a low roar, a huge blood-red palm print separated from Ning Yu's palm. Chi-chi. The speed of the palm print was very fast, and the friction with the air produced a chi-chi sound. Roar. Clearly, the illusory flying python did not care about the triple birth palm at all. It opened its mouth and directly swallowed the triple birth palm into its stomach. Good chance. Explode. With such a good opportunity, Ning Yu naturally would not waste it. When the triple birth palm entered the stomach of the illusory flying python, Ning Yu controlled the explosion of the triple birth palm with a thought. Whoosh! The explosion of the triple birth palm was very powerful. Ning Yu took out all the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness and formed a Yuan Qi barrier in front of him. Crack! Poochie! The Yuan Qi barrier only lasted for a second before it was completely destroyed. What followed was a mouthful of fresh blood from Ning Yu's mouth. Human, I will kill you in the 3rd Mang trapping formation. There was a price to pay for being arrogant. The body of the illusory flying python was very tough, and even the red demon sword could not do anything to it. However, the triple birth palm was unleashed from within, and it started exploding from within the body of the illusory flying python. It looked strong on the outside, but it was weak on the inside. The huge impact of the triple birth palm's explosion directly caused the illusory flying python to dissipate into thin air. At this moment, the Mang trapping formation was broken. However, the only regretful thing was that 2 of the 4 mini flying pythons were affected by the explosion of the illusory flying python and died on the spot. The other 2 mini flying pythons also suffered heavy injuries. After pondering for a moment, Ning Yu decided to treat the 2 mini flying pythons. These 2 mini flying pythons were the medium of communication between Ning Yu and the 6-winged flying python. Ning Yu could not allow them to die again. Ning Yu immediately sat down and treated the 2 mini flying pythons. After about 10 minutes, Ning Yu retracted his hands and a relieved expression appeared on his face. Fortunately, the injuries of the mini flying pythons were not fatal. Otherwise, even if Ning Yu used his full strength, he would not be able to treat them. You guys wait here for a while. Waving his hand, Ning Yu indicated for the 2 mini flying pythons to stay where they were, and he walked towards the second part of the secret chamber. The first part of the secret chamber was the Mang trapping formation, and the second part was the essence crystals, royal grade essence crystals. Ning Yu was not stupid. He extended his soul perception, and after confirming that there was no danger in the second part, he carefully entered the second part. 10,000 royal grade essence crystals. Ning Yu frowned slightly. 10,000 royal grade essence crystals was already a lot. Logically speaking, this was the heaven-level hall of the Beast King Palace. There was no reason for there to be so many royal grade essence crystals. Could it be that the previous batch of martial artists who came to the heaven-level hall were all idiots? They only cared about fighting with the Earthshaker and did not search the heaven-level hall? Forget it. Only idiots would not take advantage of an opportunity. Ning Yu shook his head, and with a thought, he directly put the 10,000 royal grade essence crystals into his storage bag. After thinking about it, Ning Yu did not throw the storage bag into his storage ring, but chose to carry it with him. Every royal grade essence crystal was very precious. With Ning Yu's current cultivation base, a royal grade essence crystal was enough for him to recover to his peak in his weakened state. Ningyu must carry such an important item with him. Heaven and Earth Sword Formation. After keeping the royal grade essence crystals, Ningyu took a deep breath and walked towards the third part. The third part had a total of 7 king grade, medium grade flying swords. The 7 king grade, medium grade flying swords were grouped together in a regular pattern, forming a sword formation. I wonder what level of martial technique the Heaven and Earth Sword Formation is equivalent to. Chapter 967. Chapter 967. Heaven and Earth Sword Array SSS. However, Ningyu's soul power had only taken a few steps forward, and before it could even get close to the 7 king middle grade flying swords, it was struck by the cold gleam that shot out from the stone tablet. Ningyu's soul power was completely devoured. Devouring power. Ningyu's expression was terrible. He had been very careful, but he did not expect the stone tablet to suddenly shoot out a cold gleam and devour his soul power. Luckily, it was only a small part of his soul power. If he had used all his soul power, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Crack. When Ningyu wanted to separate a second part of his soul power to examine the stone tablet, it suddenly exploded. The broken pieces of the stone tablet spread in all directions, and one of the stones that contained the word heaven blasted towards Ningyu. Slash! Ningyu let out a low roar and slashed out with the red demon sword, making an intimate contact with the stone. Ding! With a crisp sound, the stone changed its direction and floated in the air. Swish! Swish! The other 3 stones with the word earth, sword, and array also floated beside the stone with the word heaven. You are very strong. A powerful voice rang in Ningyu's ears. Ningyu was slightly stunned and found it a little unbelievable. Could it be that the person who created the Heaven and Earth Sword Array was still alive? Buzz! At this moment, an old man in white appeared in front of Ningyu. Who is it? Ningyu held the red demon sword in his hand, and he was highly focused, not daring to slack off. The aura that the old man gave off was stronger than the illusory flying python. In other words, the old man's cultivation was at least a 5th grade human supreme martial artist, or even higher. With Ningyu's current strength, it would be difficult for him to face a 4th grade human supreme martial artist, not to mention a 5th grade human supreme martial artist. Hee. Who I am is not important. What's important is that I want to teach you the Heaven and Earth Sword Formation. The old man grinned and said, the Heaven and Earth Sword Formation is formed from 7 mid-grade king rank flying swords, and it possesses extremely formidable might. If you successfully cultivate the Heaven and Earth Sword Array, you won't have to fear even an ordinary 4th grade sovereign. Right now, I don't feel any pressure even when facing a 4th grade sovereign. Ningyu curled his lips and muttered. Ningyu was well aware of his own strength. It would only be a little strenuous for him to fight against a pinnacle 4th grade sovereign. Facing ordinary 4th grade sovereigns, he wouldn't feel much pressure. Why me? Although Ningyu was a little disapproving in his heart, he did not show it on his face. It's very simple, because only you can successfully cultivate the Heaven and Earth Sword Formation. The old man said, firstly, your cultivation hasn't reached the supremacy stage yet. You're only half a step away from the supremacy stage. You meet the requirements to cultivate the Heaven and Earth Sword Formation. Secondly, you have a royal rank flying sword, and the second requirement to cultivate the Heaven and Earth Sword Formation is to have a royal rank flying sword. What a coincidence! Ningyu frowned slightly, not daring to believe it. It didn't make sense for all the good things to happen to him. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. You're very smart. The reason why I chose you is firstly because you can successfully cultivate the Heaven and Earth Sword Formation, and secondly, because I want you to avenge me. Seeing Ningyu's hesitation, the old man continued. Avenge? Avenge what? Ningyu was puzzled. I want you to go to the core hall and kill someone for me after you've successfully cultivated the Heaven and Earth Sword Formation. The old man's face instantly darkened, and he said in a deep voice, that person is the number 1 King Kong under the Beast King, King Kong Ape. King Kong Ape? Ningyu said calmly. Is it convenient for you to tell me what level this King Kong Ape is at? Pinnacle, 5th grade sovereign, the old man said coldly. Hearing the old man's words, Ningyu's mouth couldn't help but twitch a few times. You want me to fight a pinnacle 5th grade sovereign? Are you kidding me? I can only fight a 4th grade sovereign with my current strength, and it'll be hard for me to escape from a 5th grade sovereign, let alone a King Kong Ape at the pinnacle 5th grade sovereign. Don't worry, the heaven and earth sword formation is very powerful. As long as you successfully cultivate it, you'll definitely have a different idea. The old man continued to tempt him. Forget it. The heaven and earth sword formation is indeed very powerful. Even though I haven't cultivated it, I can still feel it. Ningyu waved his hand and changed the topic. However, even if I successfully cultivate the heaven and earth sword formation, I can only fight against a 5th grade sovereign. What if I encounter a King Kong Ape? Young people always worry a lot. The old man glanced at Ningyu and pointed at the 4 stones in the air. Do you see these 4 stones? Each stone can unleash the full power of a pinnacle 5th grade sovereign. When you encounter a King Kong Ape, you can suddenly throw them out. It'll definitely be effective. Continue. Ningyu motioned for the old man to continue. Other than these 4 stones, I'll also hide among the 7 King grade middle grade flying swords. When necessary, I'll appear to deal with the King Kong Ape. Hearing this, Ningyu vaguely felt that something was wrong. There was no reason for all the good things to happen to him. There must be a reason for something abnormal to happen. There was an 80% chance that the old man was plotting something against him. But as the saying goes, those who have nothing to lose are not afraid of those who wear shoes. If the old man wanted to make a move, he would definitely be able to kill him. Under this premise, agreeing to the old man's request was not a bad choice. Okay, I promise you, but I have a condition. Thinking of this, Ningyu said, I want to control the heaven and earth sword formation. I want complete control. Hearing this, the old man couldn't help but frown. This kind of frown disappeared in a flash, and he quickly returned to normal. Of course. The old man smiled slightly, then opened his mouth slightly and began to explain the things to pay attention to when practicing the heaven and earth sword formation. After a while, the old man closed his mouth and quietly looked at Ningyu. The heaven and earth sword formation's power should be equivalent to a pinnacle king grade martial technique. Ningyu took a deep breath and murmured, Give me an hour, I want to practice here. As he spoke, Ningyu directly sat cross-legged, and the yuan qi in his sea of consciousness slowly surged out. Swish, swish, swish. As the yuan qi in Ningyu's sea of consciousness surged out, 3 king grade middle grade flying swords tore through the void and floated above Ningyu's head. Swish, 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 swish. As for the other 4 king grade middle grade flying swords, they constantly moved around Ningyu, and the strong wind blew up the corners of Ningyu's clothes. Go! With a low shout, Ningyu opened his mouth and spat out a ray of cold light. Crack! In the next moment, the cold light split into 7 and entered the 7 king grade middle grade flying swords. Swish! After around 10 minutes, Ningyu released his soul force and entered the king grade middle grade flying swords once more. After his soul force entered the king grade flying swords, Ningyu finally felt a connection with the flying swords. I didn't tamper with it. At first, Ningyu was worried that the old man had tampered with the flying swords, but now it seemed like he was thinking too much. Chapter 968. Advancement. I hope you won't disappoint me. Seeing Ningyu practicing the sword formation of heaven and earth, the old man's face turned solemn. Ever since the old man was trapped, there were naturally people who came here. Moreover, there are also people who tried to practice the sword formation of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, all the martial artists who tried to practice the sword formation of heaven and earth failed. All the martial artists who failed to cultivate the heaven and earth sword formation were killed by the old man. In the old man's words, trash doesn't deserve to live in this world. The old man's attitude toward Ningyu was the same. Practice the sword formation of heaven and earth and live. Fail and die. Ningyu didn't know what the old man was thinking. He had been concentrating on practicing the sword formation of heaven and earth. The sword formation of heaven and earth was equivalent to a Peak King rank martial skill. It was extremely difficult for an ordinary half-step supreme martial artist or even a third-grade human supreme martial artist to practice. But Ningyu was different. He wasn't an ordinary half-step supreme martial artist. In his previous life, he was a sky supreme martial artist. The sword formation of heaven and earth was not a problem for Ningyu. Close. After another 10 minutes, Ningyu gave a low shout. The 7 flying swords all flew to the top of Ningyu's head, moving rhythmically. Good. The old man saw all of Ningyu's movements. Seeing that Ningyu had practiced the sword formation of heaven and earth to the realm of initial success, the old man clapped his hands and cheered. The old man was an illusory body. He had lost the ability to control the 7 mid-grade king rank flying swords. Otherwise, with the old man's strength, Ningyu wouldn't be able to do anything. After all, there was a huge difference between a half-step supreme martial artist and a 5th-grade human supreme martial artist controlling the sword formation of heaven and earth. At least, that was what the old man thought. 20 minutes to the realm of initial success. It seems that I only need 2 hours to completely master the sword formation of heaven and earth. The old man murmured. To be honest, the old man didn't believe Ningyu's 1 hour. Master the sword formation of heaven and earth in 1 hour? Only a ghost would believe that. Back when the old man obtained the heaven and earth sword formation, he spent a whole month to successfully cultivate it. At that time, the old man's cultivation was the same as Ningyu's, half a step into the supremacy realm. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. Beads of sweat dripped down from Ningyu's forehead, but Ningyu couldn't wipe it off. After 40 minutes of cultivation, Ningyu had cultivated the heaven and earth sword formation to the intermediate level. As long as he took another step forward and cultivated the heaven and earth sword formation to the mastery realm, he could leave this place. As for the better extreme realm, Ningyu did not think about it for the time being. According to Ningyu's speculation, 1 strike of the heaven and earth sword formation at the intermediate level was enough to consume most of his primordial chi. One could imagine how terrifying the heaven and earth sword formation of the extreme state was. Even if he drained all the primordial chi in his body, it would be difficult for him to exert the full power of the heaven and earth sword formation. Done. Another 20 minutes passed. When an hour was about to pass, Ningyu bellowed. Boom! Along with Ningyu's low shout, the 7 flying swords flew out in unison and surrounded the old man. At the same time, the red demon sword made a hissing sound and tried to break free from Ningyu's hands. This, looking at the 7 king-level medium-grade flying swords in front of him, the old man opened his mouth in disbelief. It's only been an hour. Has this kid really succeeded in cultivating the heaven and earth sword formation in an hour? The old man was a little dumbfounded. It was unheard of to cultivate the heaven and earth sword formation to the mastery realm within an hour. Senior, I've succeeded in cultivating the heaven and earth sword formation. Next, please tell me how to use the 4 stones. While the old man was still in shock, Ningyu's voice was heard slowly. No problem. The old man returned to normal immediately. He threw the 4 stones to Ningyu and told Ningyu how to use them. In fact, the old man was a little regretful now. Ningyu had cultivated the heaven and earth sword formation to the mastery realm in such a short time. He might not be able to control Ningyu after he entered the core hall. If that was the case, the loss would outweigh the gain. Very well. Thank you, Senior. After mastering the use of the stones, Ningyu flicked his wrist and put the stones into his storage bag. After thinking about it, Ningyu put the storage bag into his storage ring. Ningyu was sure that the old man didn't do anything to the heaven and earth sword formation, but it was hard to say for the stones. If the old man had done anything to the stones, he would be done for. Therefore, Ningyu put the stones into his storage bag and threw them into the scroll. There was a soul tree in the scroll, and with the soul tree restraining the stones, Ningyu wasn't afraid of the old man doing anything for the time being. Qin Xiang, find a way to study the stones and inform me if there's any problem. Not only did Ningyu throw the stones into the scroll, but he also informed Qin Xiang to study them. With a backup plan, it wouldn't be too miserable. Let's go to the core hall now. The old man didn't care about Ningyu's actions at all. He waved his hand, indicating that Ningyu could go to the core hall. Wait, there's something I need to do outside. Ningyu stopped the old man and said, "What is it?" The old man stopped and asked in confusion. "Follow me and you'll know." Ningyu's figure flashed, and he wanted to rush out of the secret chamber. "Let me attach myself to the flying sword." The old man's figure flashed, turned into a shadow, and went into hibernation on one of the king mid-grade flying swords. Ningyu frowned slightly, but he didn't stop him. Ningyu knew very well that he couldn't fight against the old man with his current strength. He could only go out and see if the Earthshaker had advanced to the 6th grade Human Supreme. Once the Earthshaker advanced to the 6th grade Human Supreme, the old man would have to think twice if he wanted to scheme against him. Enter the storage ring. Ningyu flew to the side of the remaining little flying pythons and stored them in the storage ring. Swoosh! Subsequently, Ningyu tore through the void and flew toward the area where the Earthshaker was. Roar! Ningyu hadn't flown far when he heard an earth-shattering roar. Needless to say, the demonic beast that let out the roar was the Earthshaker. Not good. I don't have enough energy. Ningyu's eyes narrowed slightly, and he immediately wrapped Yuan Qi around his ankles and sped up. 3 seconds later, Ningyu appeared in front of the Earthshaker. "Ningyu, do you have any Yuan crystals on you? If you do, take them all out. The Earthshaker is so close to advancing to the 6th grade Human Supreme." The 8-legged centipede was overjoyed to see Ningyu appear. "Damn it," Ningyu cursed in his heart, and then took out his storage bag. With a thought, 10 royal grade Yuan crystals flew out and entered the Earthshaker's mouth. Still not enough? Seeing that the Earthshaker was still in pain, Ningyu gritted his teeth, took out 100 royal grade Yuan crystals, and threw them all into the Earthshaker's mouth. Crack! The aura of the Earthshaker changed after the 110 royal grade Yuan crystals entered his stomach. The change was very obvious and could be considered as a metamorphosis. Chapter 9, 69. Peak Manifestation Realm Stage 6 Human Supreme. Ningyu was shocked when he felt the terrifying aura from Earthshaker. At the same time, Ningyu was scared. Fortunately, Earthshaker had sworn an oath to the heavenly Tao that it would absolutely obey him for a year. Otherwise, if Earthshaker attacked him, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Ningyu, thank you." Just like the 8-legged centipede, Earthshaker was a beast that knew how to repay kindness. He went straight to Ningyu and said, "If it wasn't for the 110 royal grade origin crystals, I might not have been able to advance to stage 6 Human Supreme." "What do you mean by might?" "I definitely wouldn't have been able to advance to stage 6 Human Supreme." Hearing Earthshaker's shameless words, the Dark Emperor curled his lips and said, "Ningyu, you're too unkind. Why didn't you take out the royal grade origin crystals earlier? All of you are in the supremacy realm. Don't forget, I'm only in the initial manifestation realm. Among all the cultivators and beasts in the heaven-level hall, the Dark Emperor had the lowest cultivation. Here, Ningyu knew what the Dark Emperor meant. He flicked his wrist and threw a storage bag to the Dark Emperor. Smack! After catching the storage bag, the Dark Emperor sent a bit of his perception into it. "Not bad, not bad. At least you have some conscience." The Dark Emperor nodded in satisfaction when he saw the origin crystals in the storage bag. There were 90 royal grade origin crystals in the storage bag. These royal grade origin crystals were not to be underestimated. If the Dark Emperor could refine them all, he might even advance to the half-step supremacy realm. "Earthshaker, 8-legged centipede, rest for a while. We'll go to the core hall later." Ningyu waved his hand and gestured for Earthshaker, who had just advanced to stage 6 Human Supreme, to rest for a while. After all, they were going to the core hall later. It was always good to be stronger. However, before Ningyu could finish his sentence, he could not help but curse. Kacha! This was because Ningyu saw the Dark Emperor taking out a piece of royal-grade origin crystal and tossing it into his mouth to chew. Gulp! The Dark Emperor's actions made everyone, including Ningyu, the Earthshaker, and the talisman martial venerable swallow a mouthful of saliva and freeze on the spot. Those were royal-grade origin crystals. Earthshaker could directly devour it because he was a 5th-grade human supreme martial artist at that time, and his body was in urgent need of energy. You're just an early-stage manifestation realm demonic beast, yet you're so arrogant and dare to swallow royal-grade origin crystals. Silence. At this moment, the entire heaven-ranked hall became abnormally quiet. Everyone held their breath, and no one said a word. Kacha! Kacha! The silence lasted for 5 minutes before it was finally broken by 2 crisp voices. The Dark Emperor took out 2 more royal-grade essence crystals and tossed them into his mouth. Ningyu, where did this dog come from? Earthshaker swallowed a mouthful of saliva and asked in confusion. Even though Earthshaker had advanced to 6th-grade human supreme martial artist, he still couldn't see through the Dark Emperor's true identity. Let's watch first. Ningyu wouldn't foolishly tell Earthshaker that the Dark Emperor was a heaven-devouring hound and the emperor of the Heaven-Devouring Hound clan, the purple gold Heaven-Devouring Hound. After all, there was still the talisman Martial Venerable and Yunmu. Most importantly, there was the old man in the 7 King middle-grade flying swords. Not simple. This dog is not simple. The old man in one of the King middle-grade flying swords had an extremely solemn expression. Due to the presence of the 6th-grade human supreme martial artist Earthshaker, the old man didn't dare to release his senses. If Earthshaker discovered it, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? Crack, crack, crack. In the heaven-ranked hall, the Dark Emperor would take out a piece of royal-grade origin crystal and devour it every few minutes. Ningyu and the rest were shocked at first, but they eventually became numb. 20 pieces. Ningyu kept counting the number of royal-grade origin crystals that the Dark Emperor devoured. In just an hour, the Dark Emperor had devoured a total of 20 royal-grade origin crystals. Moreover, the speed at which the Dark Emperor devoured the crystals was getting faster and faster. 50 pieces. When the Dark Emperor devoured the 50th piece of royal-grade origin crystal, Ningyu released his soul power and surrounded the Dark Emperor to protect him. Ningyu could understand the Dark Emperor's behavior because the Dark Emperor's cultivation had been stuck at the early stage of the manifestation realm for a long time. Now that there was a chance for him to advance to the peak stage of the manifestation realm, or even the half-step supreme martial artist, the Dark Emperor definitely wouldn't want to waste it. Everyone, step back. Without my permission, no one is allowed to take a step closer to the Dark Emperor. When the Dark Emperor devoured the 90th piece of royal-grade origin crystal, Ningyu's deep voice resounded in the heaven-rank hall. Swoosh! 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 Hearing that, Earthshaker and the rest retreated to the edge of the heaven-ranked hall, their eyes still fixed on the Dark Emperor. Swoosh! When the last piece of royal-grade origin crystal entered its stomach, the Dark Emperor's body suddenly grew a few times bigger. Woof woof! At the same time, the Dark Emperor let out a deafening roar. Bang! Then, a muffled sound came from the Dark Emperor's body. Middle stage of the manifestation realm. After the muffled sound, the Dark Emperor advanced from the early stage of the manifestation realm to the middle stage of the manifestation realm. Bang! Just when Ningyu and the rest thought that the Dark Emperor would only advance to the middle stage of the manifestation realm, a muffled sound came from the Dark Emperor's body. Late stage of the manifestation realm. Bang! Soon, another muffled sound came from the Dark Emperor's body. Peak stage of the manifestation realm. Holy F asterisk CK origin crystal. Feeling the terrifying aura from the Dark Emperor, even Ningyu was in disbelief. How long had it been? The Dark Emperor had actually accomplished something that was almost impossible. He advanced from the early stage of the manifestation realm to the peak stage of the manifestation realm. Even an insane genius like Ning, you took a long time to advance from the early stage of the manifestation realm to the peak stage of the manifestation realm. The purple-gold sky devouring hound was indeed an ancient demonic beast. Ning, you take this. After advancing to the pinnacle stage of the manifestation realm, the Dark Emperor's forehooves stomped on the ground, and his body instantly shot out. Triple birth palm. Facing the incoming Dark Emperor, Ningyu did not dare to be slow. A violent surge of energy appeared on his wrist, and he threw a palm towards the Dark Emperor. Just when Ningyu's palm was about to hit the Dark Emperor suddenly turned around, and his massive tail came in contact with the palm. Crack! The tail and the palm clashed. The palm dissipated in the air, while the tail of the Dark Emperor remained unharmed. After a single move, the Dark Emperor and Ningyu stopped at the same time. Not bad, not bad. With your current strength, you should be able to confront a third-grade sovereign. You might even be able to put up a fight against an ordinary fourth-grade sovereign. Ningyu nodded his head as he took out an interspatial pouch and tossed it over to the Dark Emperor. There's some royal grade yuan crystals in here. See if you can advance to the quasi-sovereign realm or cultivate to the first-grade sovereign realm. The Dark Emperor received the interspatial pouch and rolled his eyes at Ningyu. Do you think that it's so easy to reach the sovereign realm? The reason why I could advance to the pinnacle stage of the manifestation realm is due to my accumulation. I'm only lacking energy. Chapter 970. Chapter 970. Disruption Rumble. As soon as the Dark Emperor finished his sentence, an earth-shattering rumble sounded. Crack! The moment the rumble sounded, the ground at the entrance of the heaven-level hall suddenly collapsed. Not good. The heaven-level hall is about to collapse. Head to the core hall immediately. The eight-legged centipede's expression changed drastically. This was a sign that the heaven-level hall was about to collapse. The so-called collapse was the creation of an abyssal cavern. The yellow, mystic, and even earth-level halls in the inner region of the Beast King Palace have been occupied by the abyssal cavern. Even the heaven-level hall could not withstand the erosion of the abyssal cavern. Let's go. Ningyu had experienced the abyssal cavern before and naturally knew how terrifying it was. Without thinking too much, Ningyu stomped his feet on the ground and dashed forward. Swoosh, 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 the Dark Emperor, Earthshaker, and the rest followed closely behind Ningyu and disappeared in the blink of an eye. About 3 minutes later, Ningyu and the rest stopped in front of a heavy stone door. Let me. Seeing that Ningyu was hesitating, Earthshaker took a step forward and used his horns to push against the stone door. Bang! Although Earthshaker was very confident, the result made him feel a little awkward. The huge force of the rebound from the stone door sent him flying several feet away, and he fell to the ground. Let's attack together. Turning back to look at the approaching abyssal cavern, Ningyu let out a low grunt and drew the red demon's sword, slashing out a sword wave in the air. Sha sha sha. After Ningyu made his move, the Talisman Supremacy, Octagonal Divine Bull, Dark Emperor, and even devouring gold and demonic Lion Yun Mu attacked the stone door with all their might. While Ningyu and the others were bombarding the stone door with all their strength, inside the stone door, the so-called core hall, a chaotic scene was playing out. The core hall was the core region of the Beast King Palace. The core hall was extremely huge. Even if the previous 4 halls were added together, they might not be as big as the core hall. The structure of the core Great Hall was not complicated. In fact, it could be said to be very simple. In the central area, there was a huge cylindrical platform. Above the high platform, the void caved in. At this moment, a large number of magic treasures and pills were shooting out. Obviously, these magic treasures and pills were the source of the chaos in the core hall. Magic Treasure Cavern. The void caved in, forming a magic treasure cave. At a rough glance, there were at least a dozen figures around the round platform. The strength of these martial artists was heaven-defying. The weakest was a second-grade human supreme martial artist. In fact, there was a terrifying powerhouse hovering in the air at each of the 4 corners of the core hall. 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist. The 4 6th grade Human Supremes did not participate in the fight for the magic treasure. After all, they were strong and prideful of their status. They wouldn't snatch a Dharma treasure from a grade 2 or 3 Human Supreme being. Voila! 1 minute later, after the magical treasures and elixirs shot out from the magical treasure cave were all divided up, several figures returned to the 4 6th grade Human Supremacies. Cough, cough. The 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist on the east side coughed twice and said in a clear voice, "This is already the 9th time the magic treasure cave has shot out magic treasures. According to my guess, the 10th time the magic treasure cave will shoot out a royal grade magic treasure." Swish! Hearing this 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist's words, the eyes of many martial artists in the core Great Hall were burning with passion. Royal grade magic treasures were extremely precious. Among them, only a few people had half-step royal grade magic treasures. If they had the chance to get their hands on a royal grade magic treasure, their combat strength would instantly double. Venerable Mingyang, if you have any ideas, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. The 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist on the south side said in a deep voice, "Everyone wants a royal grade magic treasure. It's impossible for the Supreme 9 Purities Temple to monopolize it." That's right. The Supreme 9 Purities Temple, the Blood God Palace, the Corpse Sect, and the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion will have to split the royal grade magic treasure equally. The 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist on the west side echoed. Royal grade magic treasures are extremely rare. If you dare to monopolize it, you should know the consequences, the 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist on the north side said in a deep voice. Haha, I didn't say that I want to monopolize it. I just want a little more. Venerable Mingyang smiled and said, "I'll take 40% and the rest of you will each take 20%. The reason why Venerable Mingyang dared to propose this distribution plan was that his cultivation was the highest among the 4 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artists. The 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist of the Blood God Palace, Shuntian, had just advanced to the 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist not long ago, and was the weakest. Although the Corpse Sect's Venerable Corpse Crane had advanced to the 6th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist for a year, he still couldn't gain the upper hand against Venerable Mingyang. As for the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilions, Jiuding the Venerable, although his strength wasn't much different from Venerable Mingyang's, the rest of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilions members were all 2nd grade and 3rd grade Human Supreme Martial Artists. There wasn't even a single 5th grade Human Supreme Martial Artist. In terms of authority, Jiuding the Venerable was the weakest, while Venerable Mingyang was the strongest. Wishful thinking. Hearing this, Shuntian of the Blood God Palace said coldly, 50-50. Our 4 forces will split it equally. I agree. I agree too. Venerable Corpse Crane and Jiuding the Venerable said in unison. You want to split it 50-50? Actually, that's fine. Venerable Mingyang rolled his eyes as he continued. When the Beast King's 4 great Vajras come out, you guys will have to face them. It's nothing. Isn't it just the 4 great Vajras? Jiuding the Venerable said proudly, the strongest of the 4 great Vajras, the Vajra Ape, is only a pinnacle 5th grade human sovereign. It's nothing. Very well, that's it. Venerable Mingyang nodded his head. However, before Venerable Mingyang could finish his words, the sound of a stone gate shattering resounded in his ears. Crack! Everyone in the core hall shifted their gazes towards the stone gate. The stone gate shattered and several silhouettes flew out in the blink of an eye. Those silhouettes landed below the high platform. Hiss! When they landed in the core hall, Ningyu sucked in a cold breath. With Ningyu's powerful perception, he could naturally sense the cultivation of Venerable Mingyang and the rest. 4 6th grade sovereigns. Even if Ningyu had made preparations before coming in, his face couldn't help turning a little unsightly at this moment. 4 6th grade sovereigns had already made Ningyu's face turn ugly, not to mention the many 2nd and 3rd grade sovereigns behind them. This made Ningyu's heart sink to the bottom. Talisman Venerable, Yinmu. At this moment, the 9 Cauldron Venerable One noticed the talisman Marshal Venerable and Yunmu beside Ningyu. Juding the Venerable coldly said, "Why are you guys here? Who are the others?" Juding the Venerable. Although Juding the Venerable's voice was a cold snort, it was heavenly music to Talisman Venerable and Yunmu. "We were forced," Talisman Venerable said without any hesitation. However, halfway through his words, Talisman Venerable seemed to have thought of something and stopped. Talisman Venerable thought of Ningyu. Chapter 971. Chapter 971. Heavenly Secrets Token. When Juding the Venerable heard Venerable Rune Marshal's words, he coldly snorted and unleashed his aura, crazily suppressing towards Ningyu and the rest. As the pavilion master of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, Juding the Venerable was not only strong, but also smart. For Venerable Rune Marshal to behave like this, there was no doubt that he was being threatened. It didn't matter if he was being threatened. From Juding the Venerable's point of view, as long as he used his aura to suppress Ningyu and the rest, he would definitely be able to rescue Venerable Rune Marshal. Arrogant. The ideal was good, but the reality was cruel. Earthshaker let out a low roar and unleashed his aura as well, suppressing towards Juding the Venerable. What? It's Earthshaker. Why did Earthshaker become smaller? And his cultivation has also advanced to Grade 6 Human Supreme. You're asking me, but who am I supposed to ask? Hee. Looks like Juding the Venerable won't have a good time. The discussions in his ears made Juding the Venerable's face turn extremely dark, extremely dark. Juding the Venerable knew what those people were talking about. If he wasn't wrong, they wanted him to fight with Earthshaker. Juding the Venerable was not a hothead. After his first clash with Earthshaker, he immediately retracted his aura back into his body. Juding the Venerable, aren't you very strong? Why can't you deal with Earthshaker? Venerable Ming Yang flung his lips aside and said, "According to my observations, the Earthshaker Bull has just advanced to the 6th grade Mortal Sovereign realm not long ago. You, a veteran 6th grade Mortal Sovereign, is actually evenly matched with the Earthshaker Bull. If this news gets out, where would I put my face? If you're so powerful, why don't you go and fight the Earthshaker?" Juding the Venerable growled, "I'm not an idiot. Why would I fight the Earthshaker?" Venerable Ming Yang shrugged and said, "The people of your 9-furnace Divine Pavilion are in the hands of the Earthshaker. If you don't go and save them, then why should I?" Ningyu frowned when he heard Venerable Ming Yang and Juding the Venerable arguing. Since they all thought that Earthshaker was the strongest and the leader, they might as well beat him at his own game and let him retreat behind the scenes. In any case, the Earthshaker had already sworn an oath to the heavenly axiom to obey him. It was not a bad idea to let the Earthshaker be his spokesperson. Stop arguing. Now that a 6th grade Human Supreme has appeared, let's think about how to distribute the magic treasures later. Shintian acted as the peacemaker and said in a clear voice, "There's nothing to think about. In one sentence, the Earthshaker must be kicked out. He's just a demonic beast. What right does he have to divide the magic treasures with us?" Juding the Venerable said coldly, "Not only must he withdraw from the battle for the magic treasures, but he must also hand over the talisman's supremacy in Yunmu. Otherwise, we should join forces to kill him." Stop. The grudge between your 9-furnace Divine Pavilion and the Earthshaker is not something that our Supreme 9 Purities Temple wants to meddle in. Venerable Ming Yang said hurriedly. What a joke. Right now, Venerable Ming Yang couldn't wait to Juding the Venerable and the Earthshaker fight. At this time, Venerable Ming Yang would never step forward to help Juding the Venerable. As for the other two, Shintian and Venerable Corpse Crane, they had the same thoughts as Venerable Ming Yang. They would not step forward. "You!" Juding the Venerable gnashed his teeth in anger. Venerable Ming Yang and the others did not want to help, so he could only give up. "Earthshaker, what do you want in order to hand over the talisman's supremacy in Yunmu?" Relying on oneself was better than relying on others. Juding the Venerable said gloomily, "No matter what, Juding the Venerable had to save the talisman's supremacy in Yunmu. Otherwise, he would not be able to survive in the Sky Demon region. He could not afford to lose this face. Very simple. 10,000 Imperial-grade essence crystals. Ningyu knew Juding the Venerable's predicament, so he told the Earthshaker. What? Juding the Venerable almost spat out a mouthful of blood. 10,000 Imperial-grade essence crystals? To think that the Earthshaker could think of such a thing. All his treasures and essence crystals added together could not compare to 10,000 Imperial-grade essence crystals. 9 Cauldron Venerable 1, 10,000 Royal-grade origin crystals isn't much. That's equivalent to 2 lives. Venerable Ming Yang smiled faintly and said, 5,000 Imperial-grade essence crystals for 1 life. You have made a huge profit. Earth-shaking Divine Ox, don't go too far. I'll give you 100 Royal-grade origin crystals at most, nothing more. The 9th Cauldron Venerable glared at Venerable Ming Yang before he turned around and said, Earthshaker seemed to be in deep thought. After a moment, he said, How about this? Each of us take a step back. 5,000 Imperial-grade essence crystals. Crack, crack. The 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion's hands made cracking sounds. The Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu will stay with you first. After we leave the Beast King Palace, I will give you the Imperial-grade essence crystals. On one hand, Juding the Venerable wanted to save the Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu, but on the other hand, he could not bear to part with the Imperial-grade essence crystals. Don't waste your breath. If you don't have Imperial-grade essence crystals, you can use treasures and pills instead. Earthshaker revealed a disdainful expression and said, You. Juding the Venerable was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. 5,000 Imperial-grade essence crystals. Although he could use treasures and pills to replace it, he definitely would not use so many to save the Talisman Supremacy in Yunmu. After all, in his opinion, the Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu were not worth so many Imperial-grade essence crystals. Sorry, Juding the Venerable does not want to save you. It seems that your lives have come to an end. Earthshaker shrugged, and his aura pressed down on the Talisman Supremacy in Yunmu. Wait! Just as Earthshaker released his aura, the Talisman Supremacy said in a low voice. Then, the Talisman Supremacy took out a golden token. There was only one word on the golden token. Heavens! The golden token was engraved with a bold and powerful word. Heavens! What? The Heavenly Fate token. What the Heavenly Fate token? The Heavenly Fate token belongs to the Tianji Lauren. He has a total of 3 tokens. According to legend, seeing the Heavenly Fate token is the same as seeing the Tianji Lauren. Juding the Venerable from now on, Yunmu and I will leave the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. The Talisman Supremacy waved the Heavenly Fate token in her hand and said coldly, Buzz, buzz. Along with the Talisman Supremacy's voice, the Heavenly Fate token in her hand turned into nothingness and disappeared. Damn it! The sudden change had caused Juding the Venerable to be on the brink of exploding with rage. Apart from representing the Tianji Lauren, the Heavenly Fate token's greatest use was to block the all-out attack of a 9th-grade sovereign. Of course, it could only be used to block passively and could not be used against an enemy. In other words, if anyone dared to make a move against the Talisman Supremacy in Yunmu, they would not only return empty-handed, they would also suffer a backlash. The strength of the backlash was also equivalent to the all-out attack of a 9th-grade sovereign. Back and forth, it allowed the Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu to stay out of this matter and be extremely safe. Talisman Supremacy, since the two of you can stay out of this matter, then please leave the core hall immediately, in case we accidentally injure you. Juding the Venerable said fiercely, Do you take me for a fool? The Talisman Supremacy regained her composure as she faintly said, Aside from the core hall, the entire Beast King Palace has been occupied by the deep abyss. Isn't leaving the core hall the same as courting death? Chapter 972. Unexpected. Ningyu? Who is Ningyu? The Nine Cauldron Venerable frowned and asked in confusion. Earthshaker was a grade 6 human supreme. In Jioding the Venerable's opinion, he was the strongest. As for Ningyu, who was he? Jioding the Venerable didn't know. But according to Jioding the Venerable's judgment, since Venerable Talisman Marshall mentioned Ningyu, it meant that Ningyu wasn't weak. Jioding the Venerable, are you blind? Venerable Mingyang curled his lips and mocked. Ningyu is definitely alone. On Venerable Talisman Marshall's side, only that half-step supreme is a human. He's naturally Ningyu. Oof. I don't need you to care about what I do. Jioding the Venerable coldly snorted and said to Ningyu, very good. You're really arrogant to compete with me for someone from the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Ningyu's face turned ugly. What do you mean compete with you? Venerable Marshall wanted to join this faction purely because of his own will. What does that have to do with me? Jioding the Venerable, I don't want to get involved in your Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion's trivial matters. After a moment of silence, Ningyu said, you should take care of the people from the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion first. Don't let your people leave without knowing why. You're courting death. Jioding the Venerable was furious after being mocked by Ningyu. You're just a half-step supreme, yet you're so arrogant. You dare to say such words to a grade 6 human supreme? You're simply courting death. Rumble. Jioding the Venerable unleashed his aura and pressed down on Ningyu. If you want to spar, I'll accompany you at any time. Earthshaker took a step forward and stood in front of Ningyu, shielding Ningyu from Jioding the Venerable's powerful aura. Jioding the Venerable, why don't all of you take a step back? Venerable Mingyang looked at the tranquil artifact cave above the high platform. His eyeballs rolled as he started to have wicked thoughts. We're all 6th grade Sovereign Realm cultivators, so it's a little unjustifiable for us to fight now. In my opinion, you should just randomly send a cultivator to fight with Ningyu. Life and death are determined by fate. All right, since Venerable Mingyang said so, I'll give you face. In fact, Jioding the Venerable was worried about not having a way out. Now that Venerable Mingyang suggested the solution, he was very satisfied. After all, Jioding the Venerable did not want to fight with Earthshaker. Zhang Jun. In the next moment, Jioding the Venerable shouted in a low voice. Here. A young man in light blue clothes took a step forward and answered. Go spar with Ningyu. Remember, treat him well. Don't let him think that you didn't use your full strength. Jioding the Venerable said sinisterly. Understood. The young man called Zhang Jun nodded and slowly walked toward Ningyu. Grade 2 Human Supreme. Feeling the aura emanating from Zhang Jun, Ningyu frowned slightly. To be honest, with his current strength, it would only take him 1 or 2 moves to fight against a grade 2 human supreme. It would be as easy as blowing off dust. Ningyu's cultivation is only at the half-step supreme being realm. He will definitely be killed by Zhang Jun, of course. Although Zhang Jun is a grade 2 human supreme, he can even fight against an ordinary grade 3 human supreme. Where did this kid Ningyu come from? He actually dares to fight against him. Zhang Jun, go all out and try to kill Ningyu in 1 move. Don't lose face for our 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Seeing Ningyu walk toward Zhang Jun, the geniuses of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion started discussing. However, the focus of their discussion was how many moves Ningyu would take to be killed. How could a half-step Sovereign Realm cultivator win against a 2nd-grade human sovereign? Only a ghost would believe that. Make your move. If I make the first move, you won't have a chance. Zhang Jun still had some martial virtue. He shot a disdainful glance at Ningyu. Do you really think you can beat me? Ningyu didn't attack immediately. Instead, he crossed his arms and said, You're just a grade 2 human supreme. You don't have the qualifications to be arrogant in front of me. Ha ha ha. Zhang Jun seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He first threw his head back and laughed wildly. Then, he changed the topic and said coldly, A martial artist who isn't even a grade 1 human supreme dares to talk to me like that? I think you're tired of living. I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Since that's the case, I'll send you to hell. As the word hell fell, Zhang Jun's feet stomped on the ground, and his body instantly dashed forward. Swish! Zhang Jun's speed was very fast. Coupled with the fact that he wasn't too far away from Ningyu, he arrived in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. One punch, bringing with it an extremely violent yuan qi gale, it ruthlessly smashed towards Ningyu's head. Hiss! Everyone felt the terrifying yuan qi pulsating from Zhang Jun's fist and sucked in a breath of cold air. Isn't Zhang Jun a little too terrifying? Yeah, I originally thought that Jioding the Venerable would send a random martial artist. Now it seems that I'm too young. It must be because you're too young. In the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, there are many grade 3 human supremes who aren't Zhang Jun's match. It's said that Zhang Jun can enter the top 20 in the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Whoosh! The last martial artist's words caused a huge commotion in everyone's hearts. Among the top 20 martial artists in the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, the lowest cultivation was a grade 3 human supreme. Zhang Jun really did have some ability to squeeze into the top 20 as a grade 2 human supreme. Dark Emperor, should we make a move? The metal-devouring demon lion was a grade 2 human supreme, so he knew how terrifying Zhang Jun was. No need. I believe in Ningyu. Overall, the Dark Emperor was still very optimistic about Ningyu. Until now, the Dark Emperor still couldn't make a clear judgment of Ningyu's strength. The Dark Emperor could clearly feel that during the time when Ningyu disappeared in the core hall, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. But what? Hearing the Dark Emperor's nonchalant words, the metal-devouring demon lion said. However, the moment the metal-devouring demon lion said the word, but his mouth opened wide and his face was filled with disbelief. Bang! In the center of the core, Hala figure fell backwards like a kite with a broken string. Swish! At this moment, the entire core hall instantly fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the cultivator who had fallen to the ground. Their expressions became very interesting. How is this possible? Zhang Jun is a grade 2 human supreme. How could he be defeated in one move? Ningyu is so powerful? That doesn't make sense. He's just a half-step supreme. How could he be so powerful? Look at Jioding the Venerable's face. Following this martial artist's words, everyone's gaze shifted to Jioding the Venerable's face. At this moment, Jioding the Venerable's face was very ugly. His fists were tightly clenched and he was on the verge of exploding. Shameful. This was simply too shameful. The dignified grade 2 human supreme of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, Zhang Jun, was actually defeated in the hands of a half-step supreme, Ningyu. If this news were to spread, where would he put his old face? Chapter 973. Well, battle. Zhang Jun, what the hell are you doing? Is this what you meant by going all out? Clenching his fists, Jioding the Venerable glared at Zhang Jun, who was lying on the ground. Zhang Jun being defeated by Ningyu was something that Jioding the Venerable could never have imagined. A half-step supremacy realm cultivator defeating a grade 2 sovereign, and a grade 2 sovereign at that, Zhang Jun. In the past, Jioding the Venerable would never have believed it, even if he was beaten to death. Pucci. Zhang Jun was already heavily injured by Ningyu. Now that he heard Jioding the Venerable's words, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned extremely gloomy. Shame. It was truly a disgrace to the family. Ningyu, I'm going to kill you. Zhang Jun wasn't the kind of person who would give up after losing. Even though he was defeated by Ningyu, he still wanted to get back at him. Swish! Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Zhang Jun tore through the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. I've already let you off once. Now, you're the one courting death. Seeing that Zhang Jun still wanted to attack, Ningyu slowly closed his eyes. At the same time, the energy in his sea of consciousness flowed along his arm and gathered at his wrist. As long as Zhang Jun appeared before him, he would immediately throw out a punch without mercy. It would be a little stupid to show mercy in a fight. Ningyu didn't want to act like a saint. Actually, Ningyu felt a little regretful that he didn't kill Zhang Jun with that move. Close his eyes? Has Ningyu gone mad? Does he really think that Zhang Jun isn't his match? If he opens his eyes, I believe that he could defeat Zhang Jun. But now that he's closed, a grade 2 sovereign laughed sinisterly. Halfway through his words, the second grade human sovereign abruptly stopped with disbelief written all over his face. Gulp. Swallowing a mouthful of saliva, the second grade alchemist said bitterly, "Even if Ningyu closes his eyes, I still believe that he could defeat Zhang Jun." Bang. Ningyu realized the error of his ways. He had used about 50% of his strength in this punch. A punch landed on Zhang Jun's chest. Zhang Jun, who had already suffered heavy injuries, was now forced back several feet by Ningyu's terrifying punch on his chest. He fell heavily onto the ground. Silence. Silence. It was abnormally quiet. At this moment, the entire core hall fell silent. Even breathing could be heard clearly. After a short period of silence, the core hall became lively, and many cultivators discussed spiritedly. So, Ningyu is actually this strong? According to my estimation, when Ningyu killed Zhang Jun, he definitely didn't use his full strength. Do I need you to tell me that? Anyone who isn't a fool would be able to tell. Crack. The discussions made the Nine Cauldron Venerable One clench his fists so hard that cracking sounds could be heard. Defeated. Zhang Jun was defeated by Ningyu in his second attempt. Compared to the first time, Zhang Jun's defeat this time was even more miserable. Death. Defeat was equivalent to death. Jioding the Venerable, since Zhang Jun is dead, let's put an end to this matter. Let's sit down and have a good talk. The Venerable Ming Yang said. Top my ass. Jioding the Venerable said coldly. He won. Here. A young man in black stepped out and came before Jioding the Venerable. You should know what to do, Jioding the Venerable said in a deep voice. Understood. Huan said emotionlessly. I promise to complete the task. Grade 3 Sovereign? Ningyu was a little shocked when he felt the aura from Hewan. Although Hewan was a grade 3 Sovereign, Ningyu felt a lot of pressure from him. You should be a peak grade 3 Sovereign, only one step away from becoming a grade 4 Sovereign. Ningyu's expression was a little solemn. Although he could defeat Hewan, if he continued fighting like this, even a body made of iron would not be able to hold on. Taking turns to wear him down. Ningyu knew what Jioding the Venerable was planning. Taking turns to wear him down could be said to be the most shameless tactic. No matter how strong you are, I can wear you down by taking turns to wear you down, making your fighting strength weaker and weaker. Wait, Ningyu would not foolishly continue fighting like this. He waved his hand and signaled he wanted to stop. Then, Ningyu said in a clear voice, Jioding the Venerable, do I have to fight all the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion martial artists? If I am unlucky enough to win all of them, will you be the last one to fight? What do you mean? Jioding the Venerable shouted coldly. Nothing. I just want to tell you not to treat me as a fool. Ningyu shrugged and said, At most, we'll just fight each other and let the fishermen reap the benefits. You. Hearing Ningyu's words, Jioding the Venerable's eyes revealed a vicious glint. Although Ningyu's words were a bit realistic, only realistic words could make Jioding the Venerable feel fear. Jioding the Venerable took a deep breath and coldly said, Ningyu, what do you want in exchange for agreeing to fight Hewan? Forget it. Hewan is so strong. If I fight him, wouldn't that be suicide? Ningyu curled his lips and revealed a scared expression. 100 royal grade origin crystals. In order to make Ningyu agree to fight Hewan, Jioding the Venerable took out a storage bag from his chest and said, If you fight Hewan, these 100 royal grade origin crystals are yours. Shua. As he said this, Jioding the Venerable threw the royal grade origin crystals to Hewan. Only 100 royal grade origin crystals? Ningyu first revealed an excited expression before he said in disdain, You want me to risk my life for so few origin crystals? Who are you trying to fool? Humph, I'm afraid you don't want the royal grade origin crystals. Seeing the change in Ningyu's expression, Jioding the Venerable secretly snorted and took out another storage bag. There are 1,000 royal grade origin crystals in here. As long as you defeat Hewan, it's yours. Jioting the Venerable threw the storage bag to Hewen again. All right, seeing that there are so many royal-grade origin crystals, I'll reluctantly agree. Ningyu displayed a conflicted expression before he said, 1,000 royal-grade origin crystals is quite a lot. If you give it to me, I can buy some handy magic weapons from the auction house in the future. You'll need to be alive to take it. Jioting the Venerable's lips involuntarily curled up. I've been tricked. I've been tricked. Ningyu, you've been tricked by Jioting the Venerable. Hewen isn't a third-grade supreme martial artist. His true cultivation is a fourth-grade supreme martial artist. Inside the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, a cultivator received Venerable Ming Yang's instructions and said loudly, "Boom!" Ningyu didn't have much of a reaction. The Dark Emperor and the metal-devouring Demon Lion were stunned on the spot. Fourth-grade supreme martial artist, half a step to supreme martial artist. There was a huge difference between the two. The Dark Emperor and the gold-devouring Demon Lion were not surprised that Ningyu could kill a Grade 2 human sovereign or even a Grade 3 human sovereign. However, Ningyu was facing a genuine fourth-grade supreme martial artist. Chapter 974. Boom! Boom! Hewen seemed to know what the Dark Emperor and the metal-devouring Demon Lion were thinking. Hewen's aura was suddenly unleashed. Hiss! Even though Ningyu was prepared, he was still shocked when he sensed the terrifying aura that Hewen exuded. Peak fourth-grade human supreme. Hewen was not an ordinary fourth-grade human supreme, but a peak fourth-grade human supreme. Furthermore, he was only one step away from advancing to the fifth-grade human supreme. It was no wonder the others were shocked. His cultivation was infinitely close to the fifth-grade human supreme, and Hewen's battle prowess was probably comparable to some ordinary fifth-grade human supreme. Looks like I have to use the red demon sword. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu shook his wrist and quietly took out the red demon sword. However, Ningyu had used a secret technique to seal the red demon sword, causing it to only reveal the level of a king-grade middle-grade flying sword. As expected, when they saw Ningyu withdraw a middle-grade king rank flying sword, none of the martial artists in the entire core hall placed their attention on it. The king-grade middle-grade flying sword was not considered a high-grade flying sword in the core hall at this moment. Ningyu, enjoy the pleasure that Hewen brings you, ha ha ha. Seeing Ningyu's serious expression, Jioting the Venerable could not help but laugh maniacally. Awesome. Really too awesome. Thinking about how Ningyu was about to be killed, Jioting the Venerable wanted to laugh. The arrogant brat had finally fallen for his scheme. Ningyu opened his mouth and turned to Jioting the Venerable. Do you think that Hewen will definitely be able to kill me? Of course it's true. Jioting the Venerable replied without hesitation. If the fourth-grade human supreme martial artist, Hewen, was defeated by Ningyu, then Jioting the Venerable would probably go to hell. Through the exchange between Ningyu and Zhang Jun, Jioting the Venerable had a rough idea of Ningyu's true strength. It was between third-grade human sovereign and fourth-grade human sovereign. With Ningyu's strength, he didn't even need to use his full power to kill him. However, even a lion would use its full strength to capture a rabbit. Naturally, Jioting the Venerable would not allow Hewen to hold back. Jioting the Venerable, since you think so highly of Hewen, why don't you bet another 1,000 royal grade origin crystals? Ningyu smiled lightly and said, if Hewen defeats me, I'll give you 2,000 royal grade origin crystals. If Hewen is defeated by me, you'll give me 2,000 royal grade origin crystals. Oh, you want to bet royal grade origin crystals with me? You're a half-step supreme martial artist, and you have royal grade origin crystals. Jioting the Venerable raised his eyebrows and said, of course I have royal grade origin crystals. Ningyu interrupted Jioting the Venerable and took out a storage bag. There are 2,000 royal grade origin crystals in here. As long as Hewen wins, it's yours. Oof. Don't try to fool me with low-quality origin crystals. Jioting the Venerable coldly snorted and immediately unleashed his perception. Ningyu did not stop Jioting the Venerable. Instead, he crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Jiuding the Venerable. "You're lucky. I wonder where you got so many royal-grade origin crystals." After a while, Jiuding the Venerable retracted his perception and said in a deep voice, "Whoosh." Many martial artists in the core Great Hall stared at the storage bag. After Jiuding the Venerable admitted that there were royal-grade origin crystals inside, everyone was slightly surprised. Royal-grade origin crystals were very precious. Ningyu, a half-step supreme martial artist, could actually carry so many royal-grade origin crystals with him? It was too abnormal. He should be a young master of some big family or a genius of some big sect. That's right. That must be it. Otherwise, he wouldn't carry so many royal-grade origin crystals with him. Jiuding the Venerable has offended Ningyu. Both sides will probably suffer. It's impossible for both sides to suffer. Jiuding the Venerable's influence in the core Great Hall is stronger than Ningyu's side. Although that's the case, Jiuding the Venerable probably won't dare to let anyone kill Ningyu. The discussions in his ears made Jiuding the Venerable's expression turn ugly. Although Jiuding the Venerable also thought that Ningyu was a young master gone from some big family or sect, he still decided to kill Ningyu. Ningyu had offended him. Anyone who offended him must die. Yuan, I'll give you another 1,000 royal-grade origin crystals. You know what to do. Jiuding the Venerable threw another storage bag to Yuan and said in a low voice, "I know what to do." Yuan received the storage bag and casually threw it on the ground. He said, "Ningyu, I'm different from Zhangjun. I always attack first when facing an enemy." Whoosh! As his voice fell, Yuan rose from the ground and charged towards Ningyu at an astonishing speed. "Let's try a palm strike." Ningyu did not use the red demon sword immediately. Instead, he formed a hand seal with his right hand and threw a palm strike. Bang! The two palms collided. A crisp sound rang out. In the next moment, the two figures retreated backward. Pucci! After stabilizing his body, Ningyu spat out a mouthful of blood. As for Yuan, his expression only turned a little ugly. As expected of a grade 4 sovereign. "You're really powerful," Ningyu said as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "You're not bad yourself. You managed to block a palm strike of mine." Yuan was very dissatisfied with the fact that he only gained a slight upper hand in the first strike. In Yuan's opinion, a grade 4 sovereign like him should be able to kill Ningyu with a single strike. He did not expect Ningyu's resistance to be so strong. His punch, which contained 80% of his strength, only pushed Ningyu back a few feet. "I did not use my full strength in the previous strike. You won't be so lucky for the next one," Yuan said coldly. "Sorry, I did not use my full strength in the previous strike." Ningyu shrugged. "You're courting death." Hearing Ningyu's arrogant words, Yuan let out a low roar and waved his hands. In an instant, he tore through the void and disappeared. Tore through the void. Seeing Yuan disappear, Ningyu slightly knitted his brows and took 2 steps back. At the same time, Ningyu held the red demon sword in front of his chest and poured the energy from his sea of consciousness into it. The ignorant are fearless. You want to block Yuan's full strength with a King Middle Grade Yuan crystal? Jiuding the Venerable looked at Ningyu's actions and said in disdain, "Yuan also has a flying sword, and it's a top-grade king flying sword. From the looks of it, he doesn't even need to use a top-grade king flying sword to kill you. Ningyu, take my fist, soaring eagle fist." In the next instant, Yuan suddenly appeared in front of Ningyu. He clenched his right fist and threw it out. "Why should I take a punch from you?" The corner of Ningyu's mouth curled up. He gripped the red demon sword and slashed it down. The speed of Ningyu's sword was extremely fast, so fast that it was terrifying. Before Yuan could react, the red demon sword slashed his wrist. Crack! An extremely crisp sound rang out in the core hall. Accompanying this crisp sound was a miserable shriek like that of a pig being slaughtered. Ah! Chapter 975. No skin. What? Yuan's right hand was chopped off? Yuan is a pinnacle 4th grade sovereign. How could he be defeated? Not to mention, even his right hand was chopped off. 4th grade human supreme is nothing. The most important thing is the flying sword in Ningyu's hand. Flying sword? Isn't that just a mid-grade king rank flying sword? Humph. Ningyu is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. The flying sword in his hand isn't a king rank medium-grade flying sword. It's a monarch rank flying sword. Zhuding the Venerable's face was livid and bloodless. Everyone was deceived by Ningyu. The flying sword in Ningyu's hand wasn't at the mid-grade king rank, but it was at the monarch rank. Voila! Zhuding the Venerable's words caused many martial artists in the core hall to reveal heated expressions. A monarch-ranked magic treasure. Wasn't it for the sake of monarch-rank magic treasures that everyone was fighting desperately here and even had to face difficulties from the Beast Kings for Guardian Warriors? Now, Ningyu, a half-step supremacy realm martial artist, actually possessed a monarch-rank magic treasure. Comparisons were truly odious. Pucci. Huan's left hand quickly tapped on his right wrist a few times before he spat out another mouthful of blood. Ningyu, I want to die. After recovering for a minute, Huan roared and rushed out. Huan made up his mind. No matter what, he had to kill Ningyu today. Otherwise, there was no way he could establish himself in the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion. He was a fourth-grade human sovereign, while Ningyu was only a half-step sovereign. If the news of a fourth-grade human sovereign getting his wrist chopped off by a half-step sovereign realm martial artist were to spread, it would be a huge blow to their reputation. There are many people who want you dead. Who do you think you are? Ningyu shrugged his shoulders as he faced Yuan, who was continuously approaching him. A grade 4 human sovereign couldn't even defeat me in 2 moves, yet you still dare to boast like that? Aren't you ashamed? I was careless just now, but you won't be so lucky now. Once Yuan decided on something, he would definitely not change his mind. He said that he would kill Ningyu. Even if he had to suffer serious injuries, he would kill Ningyu. Since you're seeking death, I'll fulfill your wish. Ningyu's eyes turned cold, and the red demon's sword in his hand slashed through the air. Boom! In an instant, a shocking sword light appeared in midair. Ningyu did not hold back at all. He used his full strength. Actually, Ningyu could use solitaire. However, there were people from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple here, so Ningyu didn't want to expose himself too early. The Supreme Nine Purities sword art was the exclusive cultivation technique of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. If they knew that he knew the Supreme Nine Purities sword art, they would probably attack him on the spot. Chi. Wherever the sword light passed, the air parted, and the space was compressed to the point that it made sizzling sounds. Let's fight. At this moment, Huan's strength was not at its peak. He only had 70% of it. His right hand being chopped off had a huge impact on him. Huan knew that he wouldn't be Ningyu's match if he fought head-on. So he took a step back and used a secret technique to tear through the void and disappear. Huan's disappearance directly caused Ningyu's sword light to lose its target. A concealment technique. This time, Ningyu has no other way. Unless he's a 5th-grade sovereign, there's no way he can find Yuan. That's right. Whenever Yuan is forced to a certain extent, he will use this technique. After using this technique, Yuan will definitely win. It seems that Ningyu is going to be killed. What the F***CK? However, before the last warrior could finish his sentence, an expression of extreme disbelief appeared on his face. The sword light that Ningyu slashed out made a circle in midair and then blasted toward the void in the west. Puff! After the sword light traveled a certain distance, it suddenly exploded. Accompanied by the explosion of the sword light, a figure was forcefully blasted out of the void. That's right, the figure that was blasted out of the void was Yuan. Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face became abnormally pale, without any color. Sorry, I might have to disappoint you. After succeeding in one move, Ningyu did not stop at all. Instead, he quickly attacked with a red demon sword in his hand and stabbed at Yuan's heart. Hit the snake where it hurts. Don't hold back. There was no way Ningyu would give Yuan a chance to live. If he spared the enemy's life now, the enemy would personally kill him in the future. Ningyu, how dare you? Yuan was a top powerhouse of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. How could Zhuding the Venerable allow him to be killed? Therefore, Zhuding the Venerable reneged on his words. After a low roar, Juding the Venerable turned into a shadow and rushed out. Your opponent is me. However, the one who attacked together with Juding the Venerable was the Earthshaker. When the sword light blasted, he went out of the void. Ningyu had already informed the Earthshaker to watch out for Juding the Venerable. A person like Juding the Venerable would definitely not allow he to be killed. Rumble. In the void, Juding the Venerable and the Earthshaker started fighting. Damn it, retreat. Seeing Juding the Venerable and the Earthshaker fighting, the Venerable Mingyang and the others hurriedly shouted. Puff, puff, puff. The impact of the battle between two grade 6 supreme beings was still very big. In just a second, 3 first-grade human supremacies were killed by the aftershocks. Die. With the Earthshaker blocking Juding the Venerable for him, Ningyu's figure flashed and appeared in front of He-One in the blink of an eye. The red demon sword in his hand stabbed out. Puff! The sound of a flying sword stabbing into flesh was heard. He-One lowered his head and looked at the red flying sword in his heart. He wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, his body fell backwards. Juding the Venerable. Now that He-One has been killed, there is no meaning in fighting with the Earthshaker. Seeing that Ningyu had killed He-One, the Venerable Mingyang said hurriedly, if he allowed Juding the Venerable and the Earthshaker to continue fighting, who knew what would happen? Ningyu, how dare you kill He-One? I will tear you apart. Hearing that He-One had been killed, Juding the Venerable forced the Earthshaker back with one move and charged towards Ningyu. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, this time, Juding the Venerable did not succeed. Venerable Mingyang, Shintian, and the Venerable Corpse Crane immediately blocked Juding the Venerable's path. Being blocked by 3 grade 6 supreme beings, Juding the Venerable stopped unwillingly. Why are you guys blocking me? Ningyu killed He-One, I will tear him apart. The 9 Cauldron Venerable roared as he gradually lost his mind. Juding the Venerable. Everything must be done with propriety. Among the 3 grade 6 supreme beings, Venerable Mingyang was the strongest. Naturally, he was the one who spoke. He-One and Ning, you were willing to fight. Since there is a fight, there will be life and death. It is normal for He-One to be killed. Venerable Mingyang said coldly, if you continue to cause trouble, don't blame us for being impolite. Ningyu killed He-One. No one in this world can save him. The 9 Cauldron Venerable One scoffed and said something that made everyone spit out blood. Chapter 976. Chapter 976. Compromise. Are you sure you want to fight me? Ningyu looked at Juding the Venerable as if he was looking at an idiot and said, you're a 6th grade human supreme martial artist, and I'm only a half supreme martial artist. Aren't you ashamed to fight me? You're only a half supreme martial artist. Does this have anything to do with me? Did I forbid you from reaching 6th grade human supreme martial artist? You're being unreasonable. Juding the Venerable snorted coldly and said in a domineering tone, my half-supreme martial artist cultivation has nothing to do with you. Ningyu shrugged and changed the topic. However, whether I'm willing to fight you or not has nothing to do with you. Swoosh. After saying that, Ningyu's figure flashed and he dashed straight for the storage bag. There were a total of 2,100 royal grade origin crystals in the storage bag. Ningyu naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. So many royal grade origin crystals would be enough for Ningyu to use for a long time. You're courting death. Juding the Venerable was furious that Ningyu ignored him. He rose from the ground and dashed towards Ningyu. Juding the Venerable's goal was clear. He wanted to kill Ningyu before the Earthshaker made his move. This was the only way he could avoid the interference of Venerable Mingyang and the rest. Ningyu's expression turned ugly as he looked at Juding the Venerable who was approaching him. With a thought, the red demon's sword appeared in his hand. Just as Ningyu was about to use solitaire, a voice rang in his mind. Let me do it. Hearing this, Ningyu's raised arms stopped in midair. Watch out. Ningyu retreat. Juding the Venerable. How dare you kill Ningyu? I'll kill you. Ning Yu's actions caused the faces of the Dark Emperor and the others to change drastically as they berated in unison. TSK, TSK. Now, even if the God of Heaven comes, he won't be able to stop me from killing Ning Yu. The Nine Cauldron Venerable One laughed wickedly. The Earthshaker was quite far away. Venerable Mingyang and the rest would not help Ning Yu. Therefore, in jioting the Venerable's heart, Ning Yu was already a dead man. No one in the world could save him. Die. You can only blame yourself for offending someone you shouldn't have. Reincarnate into a better person in your next life, jioting the Venerable said with a smile. Really? However, before jioting the Venerable could finish his sinister words, a voice rang in his ears. Hearing the voice in his ears, jioting the Venerable was stunned for a moment. Then, he snorted coldly, playing tricks. Ning Yu, how dare you try to play tricks in front of me? You're simply courting death. The word death was heard. Jioting the Venerable clenched his right fist and punched towards Ning Yu. TSK, TSK. Jioting the Venerable was a 6th grade supreme martial artist. In addition, he had used all his strength in this punch. If Ning Yu was unlucky enough to be hit in the head, his head would definitely explode. Swoosh! In a split second, a flying sword shot out from Ning Yu's body. Whoosh! The flying sword slashed out a sword wave in the air and collided with jioting the Venerable's fist. After one move, jioting the Venerable took a few steps back before he could stabilize himself. As for the sword wave, it directly dissipated between heaven and earth. What was that? It's a flying sword, a king middle grade flying sword. A king middle grade flying sword can actually stop jioting the Venerable and is evenly matched with jioting the Venerable. Isn't Ning Yu a little too monstrous? That's a 6th grade human sovereign. The exclamations of shock from all around made jioting the Venerable very angry. He-Wen's death was already enough to make him lose face. Now that he failed to kill Ning Yu with one move, he even injured himself. This was a grudge that jioting the Venerable could not tolerate. He must take revenge. Swoosh! However, before jioting the Venerable could launch a second attack, Earthshaker arrived in front of Ning Yu. Although Ning Yu had blocked jioting the Venerable's move, from Earthshaker's point of view, Ning Yu was still not a match for jioting the Venerable. After all, the difference in their cultivation was not small. Earthshaker, do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Jioting the Venerable clenched his fists and said fiercely. Anytime, Earthshaker said coldly. Cough, cough. At this moment, Venerable Mingyang coughed twice and became the peacemaker. According to my estimation, the magic treasure cave will shoot out magical weapons in another 10 minutes. If there's any grudge between us, we can settle it after we leave the Beast King Palace. Jioting the Venerable's eyes flickered. In fact, what Venerable Mingyang said was right. In another 10 minutes, the magic treasure cave would shoot out magical weapons. Compared to monarch rank magic treasures and high-grade medicinal pills, killing Ning Yu seemed to not be so important. In any case, he had a lot of influence on his side. Once he left the Beast King Palace, he could think of a way to kill Ning Yu. Good. Since Venerable Mingyang is speaking up for this kid, I will give you face. After a moment of silence, jioting the Venerable said, from today onwards, all martial artists of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, as long as they see Ning Yu, kill him without mercy. Idiot. Ning Yu curled his lips and muttered. A long time ago, Zhu Zhen had issued the 9 Cauldrons Divine Hunting Order. Now, jioting the Venerable did the same thing. It was a bit repetitive. The number of magical weapons that the Magic Treasure Cave will shoot out is limited, so I will explain the rules first. Venerable Mingyang said in a clear voice. 5 forces. When a Magic Treasure Cave shoots out magical weapons and pills, each force can send out 2 people. Does anyone have any objections? No objections. Shintian said. I also have no objections. In Corpse Sex Venerable Corpse Crane echoed. Humph. Jioting the Venerable coldly snorted and did not directly answer Venerable Mingyang's words. But from his actions, it could be seen that he agreed with Venerable Mingyang's proposal. Earthshaker, what do you think? Venerable Mingyang looked at Earthshaker and said. Earthshaker did not answer Venerable Mingyang's words. Instead, he looked at Ningyu. Ningyu slightly nodded. His meaning was self-evident. After getting Ningyu's affirmation, Earthshaker said, no problem. Since no one has any objections, then let's do it this way. When a magic treasure cave shoots out magical weapons, each force can only send out 2 martial artists. After saying this, Venerable Mingyang went silent and tried his best to adjust his mental state to its peak. This time, the magic treasure cave will definitely shoot out Emperor-grade magical weapons and high-grade pills. When a magic treasure cave spits out magic treasures, whoever is the strongest will be able to obtain more magic treasures. Ningyu, in my opinion, we should let Earthshaker and 8-legged centipede go out later. Dark Emperor was more worried about Ningyu's safety and said, all right. After thinking about it, Ningyu felt that Dark Emperor's suggestion was not bad. 8-legged centipede was a grade 4 human supreme, while Earthshaker was a grade 6 human supreme. It should not be a problem for them to fight for magical weapons. Besides, Ningyu had to be on guard against the people from the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. If the experts from the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion attacked him while he was fighting for magical weapons, wouldn't he be finished? Ningyu, are you really not going to fight for magical weapons? Chapter 977. Ejection. It's the Tianji Oldman again. Ningyu's attention wasn't on the royal grade artifact or the grade 9 elixir, but on the Tianji Oldman. From a Tianji token to the talisman Venerable mentioning the Tianji Oldman, Ningyu's interest in the Tianji Oldman had been piqued. Talisman Venerable, it looks like you and Yunmu aren't ordinary people. You must be from a large sect or clan. Ningyu didn't answer the Talisman Venerable's question, but faintly said, I'm curious as to why you want to join my side. If you want to use us as a shield, then I can tell you that you're overthinking it. I didn't think too much about it. The Talisman Venerable avoided the topic and said, you're already very strong and can at least fight against a grade 6 human supreme. You also have the grade 6 human supreme Earthshaker and grade 4 human supreme 8-legged centipede, and even the help of a mysterious person. What mysterious person? Ningyu raised his brows and said calmly, haha, don't think that I don't know that the reason why you were able to block Jioding the Venerable's attack was all because of the mysterious person. The Talisman Venerable smiled and continued, the Tianji Oldman performed a divination before I came. The Beast King isn't dead, and the 4 great Vajras under the Beast King are also alive. When the magical treasure cave is done ejecting the magical treasures and elixirs, the 4 great Vajras will appear. The Talisman Venerable continued. What you need to consider now is how to increase your strength before the 4 great Vajras appear. This is also the reason why I'm reminding you to fight for the royal grade artifact and elixirs. The Tianji Oldman is so powerful, he should be able to tell if I can escape successfully. Ningyu raised his brows. Every divination that the Tianji Oldman performs causes great damage to himself. He won't do such trifling things, said the Talisman Venerable. You seem to be in control of the situation. Ningyu looked at the Talisman Venerable with interest and said, how about this? You replace the 8-legged centipede and personally fight for the magical treasures and elixirs. Impossible. The Talisman Martial Supremacy immediately refused. What a joke. The Talisman Venerable's cultivation was only at the pinnacle of grade 1 human sovereign. If it wasn't for the heavenly fate token that he carried with him, he would have long been killed by Jiuding the Venerable. It was easy to imagine that if she were to snatch the treasures and pills now, she would definitely fall into Jiuding the Venerable's trap. If the defense of the Tianji token was broken, she would really be done for. Then what are you bullshitting me for? Ningyu's expression instantly turned cold as he said, go somewhere cool and stay there. If you continue to talk nonsense with me, I won't keep you here. As his voice fell, Ningyu took out a piece of royal grade origin crystal circulated the spirit transformation art, and began to absorb the origin energy within. Zhang Jun was a grade 2 human sovereign, while he, 1, was a grade 4 human sovereign. Ningyu had expended a lot of energy fighting them. There were less than 10 minutes before the magic treasure grotto would shoot out the magic treasures and medicinal pills. At that moment, there was only one thought in Ningyu's mind. That was to recover to his peak state within 10 minutes. Only in this way could he not be a burden and have more means of survival. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. Inside the core hall, the 5 forces were at peace with each other. No one made a move against each other. Everyone was waiting for the magic treasure grotto to shoot out. To any martial artist in the core hall, royal grade magic treasures and grade 9 elixirs were rare treasures. With a royal grade magic treasure, one's force could increase by a level. With a grade 9 elixir, one's cultivation could even increase by a level. Both were very important to everyone. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes had passed. Suddenly, an earth-shattering sound rang out. Everyone's gaze turned to the magic treasure grotto on the high platform. Rumble. The loud sound continued for a while. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Then, several rays of cold light shot out from the magic treasure grotto and spread in all directions. Sensing the grade of the magic treasures, none of the 5 grade 6 human sovereigns made a move. Heaven grade magic treasures. Most of the magic treasures shot out in the first wave were heaven-grade magic treasures. There wasn't even a single king-grade magic treasure. Not even a single elixir was shot out. Under such circumstances, Venerable Mingyang and the others definitely wouldn't make a move to fight for it. Several magic treasures were scattered around the core hall without any pattern. Whoever landed in front of them would make a move and take it. After all, the martial artists in the core hall were all very powerful. Most of them were in the supreme realm. Heaven-grade magic treasures weren't attractive to grade 6 human sovereigns, nor were they attractive to them. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After the first wave of magic treasures shot out, it only stopped for 3 minutes before the second wave was shot out. Compared to the first wave, the magic treasures in the second wave were of a higher grade. King-grade magic treasures. Among the magic treasures, most of them were king-grade magic treasures. There were even a few high-grade, king-grade magic treasures mixed in. Ha! Sorry, everyone. I'll be leaving first. King-grade magic treasures were already very precious. Venerable Mingyang let out a loud laugh and dashed out. Behind Venerable Mingyang was a peak-grade 4 human supreme. According to the agreement, each force could only send out 2 people. On the Supreme 9 Purities Temple's side, Venerable Mingyang took the lead, and the peak grade 4 human supreme followed closely behind to fight for the magic treasures. Let's talk with our strength. Seeing Venerable Mingyang make a move, Juding the Venerable snorted coldly and also dashed out with a peak grade 4 human supreme. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Immediately after, Venerable Corpse Crane and Shuntian also dashed out and joined in the fight for the magic treasures. Among the 5 forces, only Ningyu's Earthshaker and 8-legged Centipede did not make a move. Ningyu, those are all king-grade magic treasures. Seeing that Ningyu had no intention of making a move, Venerable Talisman Marshal spoke again. I know, I have plenty of king-grade magic treasures. Ningyu nodded his head and flicked his wrist, throwing the 7 king-grade middle-grade magic treasures that he had obtained from the heaven-level palace into the air. Hiss! Looking at the 7 king-grade middle-grade flying swords, Venerable Talisman Marshal couldn't help sucking in a cold breath. These 7 king-grade middle-grade flying swords aren't simple. The blazing expression on Venerable Talisman Marshal's face flashed for a brief moment before returning to normal. However, Ningyu could clearly see the expression on Venerable Talisman Marshal's face. No wonder you wanted me to fight for the magic treasures, so you're in need of them. Ningyu could basically conclude that Venerable Talisman Marshal needed magic treasures, a large amount of king-grade and monarch magic treasures. You must be hiding something from me. Ningyu quietly gave a signal to the Dark Emperor with his eyes, signaling the Dark Emperor to look after venerable Talisman Marshal. Ever since he reached the pinnacle manifestation realm, the Dark Emperor's strength had undergone a qualitative leap. Facing a peak grade 1 human sovereign like venerable Talisman Marshal, the Dark Emperor didn't even need to use his full strength to kill him. If you don't tell me the truth, then I'll look after you. Chapter 978. Heaven Essence Pill, Ningyu, I have a request. Ningyu had just instructed the Dark Emperor to look at Supremacy Talisman Marshal when Supremacy Talisman Marshal revealed a troubled expression and said, "You have 7 king-rank middle-grade flying swords. Why don't you sell a few to me?" "Sell them to you?" Ningyu's brows raised, and he said, "I don't believe you don't have king-rank flying swords. Moreover, you shouldn't be able to increase your combat strength by much if you use a king-rank middle-grade flying sword. Why don't you buy a royal-rank flying sword?" "Sigh, royal-rank flying swords are priceless. How can they be so easy to buy?" Supremacy Talisman Marshal sighed lightly and said, "Even if I have enough essence crystals, it's very difficult to buy a royal-rank magic treasure. It's not impossible for you to want a king-rank flying sword, but I have a condition," Ningyu said without batting an eyelid. Ningyu was testing Supremacy Talisman Marshal, wanting to see how Supremacy Talisman Marshal would react. Actually, in Ningyu's heart, Supremacy Talisman Marshal had always been a huge trouble. The reason why Ningyu had never killed Supremacy Talisman Marshal was also because he was afraid of Supremacy Talisman Marshal. As expected, when Supremacy Talisman Marshal was in the core hall, he finally revealed his fox's tail. Just a single Heaven Secret token was enough to make everyone shrink back at the sight of it. If Supremacy Talisman Marshal took out another strange item, probably no one would dare to do anything to him. What condition? Supremacy Talisman Marshal was delighted in his heart, but he did not show it. Very simple. Make Yanmu swear a heavenly Tao oath to absolutely obey me. Ningyu was determined to shock him to death. Forget it. Supremacy Talisman Marshal's tone was extremely cold. "I don't care. Come find me any time after you've considered it." Ningyu shrugged, indicating that he did not mind. "You want my king-ranked middle-grade flying sword without paying any price? Simply a fool's dream." Swoosh, swoosh. At this time, the second wave of magic treasures had already ended. The third wave of magic treasures gushed out completely. The third wave of magic treasures had a total of 5 items. 3 monarch flying swords and 2 grade 9 medicinal pills. Heaven Essence Pill. Ningyu's gaze was fixed on a golden pill. The Qian Yuan pill was an early-stage level 9 medicinal pill. Although the Qian Yuan pill was only a level 9 initial stage elixir, it was extremely difficult to refine. In his previous life, Ningyu had only managed to refine it when his soul strength had reached level 9 middle stage. Refining a grade 9 elixir had a very strict requirement for soul force. Generally speaking, most 9th grade early stage alchemists could only refine 9th grade early stage elixirs. It was impossible for them to refine 9th grade middle stage elixirs. Even so, there were still some 9th grade primary alchemists who could only refine the worst of the 9th grade medicinal pills. Earthshaker 8-legged centipede. We must get that golden pill no matter what. Ningyu sent a mental message to the Earthshaker and the 8-legged centipede. No wonder Ningyu was so excited. As long as he could get the Heaven Essence pill, he had a 90% chance of advancing to level 1 Human Supreme. He might even be able to skip level 1 Human Supreme and advance to level 2 Human Supreme. Understood. The Earthshaker understood and immediately rushed toward the Heaven Essence pill with the 8-legged centipede. Shuntan, Corpse Crane, and the Venerable Mingyang flew toward the 3 monarch flying swords respectively. The 9 Cauldron Venerable One's first target was another 9th grade elixir. The Shaoyan pill. Compared to the Heaven Essence pill, the Shaoyan pill was a healing elixir. As long as one's cultivation was lower than level 9 Human Supreme, even if one was on the verge of death, the Shaoyan pill could prolong one's life. At Juding the Venerable's level, The Heaven Essence pill was no longer attractive to him. What he wanted was a life-saving elixir like the Shaoyan pill. The five forces had a clear division of labor. No one fought with each other. The battle that was about to erupt also dissipated. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The venerable Mingyang, Shintan, and the venerable Corpse Crane. After obtaining the monarch flying swords, the three of them immediately returned to their respective forces. Smack! The Earth Shaker grabbed the Heaven Essence pill in his hand, then turned around and rushed toward Ningyu. Oomph! The Heaven Essence pill is such a precious elixir. A demonic beast like you has no use for it. Give it to me. However, the Earth Shaker had only taken a few steps when he heard a cold snort. In the next moment, Juding the Venerable kept the Shaoyan pill and turned into a shadow as he rushed toward the Earth Shaker. Nine Cauldron's divine fist. At the same time, Juding the Venerable waved his hands, and a fist radiance instantly shot out. Roar! At the critical moment, the Earth Shaker roared at the sky and pierced the fist radiance with his giant horns. Whoosh! The toughest part of the Earth Shaker's body was his horns. Especially after he advanced to the 6th grade Human Supreme, the horns on his head were even more terrifying. The horns and the fist radiance collided. Without a doubt, the fist radiance, Juding the Venerable's fist radiance, dissipated immediately. Go! Even though his first attack failed, the Venerable One did not plan to stop. He grunted and charged at the earth-shaking ox again. Hee, eight-legged centipede, die. Seeing that the Nine Cauldron Venerable and the Earth-Shaker Divine Ox were fighting, the pinnacle grade 4 human sovereign that the Nine Cauldron Venerable had brought along smiled evilly and launched an attack at the eight-legged centipede. Bao Chang's strength was second only to Juding the Venerable among the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion's warriors in the core hall. Even if it was expanded to include all the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion's warriors, Bao Chang would be ranked in the top 10. You're courting death. The eight-legged centipede was a demonic beast. Now that a human dared to say such words to him, he was naturally furious. The enraged eight-legged centipede used all his strength in his first move to kill Bao Chang. Bang! However, since Bao Chang was chosen by Juding the Venerable, his strength was not to be belittled. The eight-legged centipede did not gain any advantage against Bao Chang. Instead, he was hit in the chest by Bao Chang and was sent flying dozens of feet away. "Sai, I don't really want to kill you now." Bao Chang sighed. To have a pinnacle 4th grade sovereign realm demonic beast as a mount, it'll be a great honor. It's a pity that the Nine Cauldron Venerable has issued a death order. You must be killed and cannot be spared, so I apologize. Buzz. As Bao Chang's cold voice rang out, his body gradually became illusory, fusing with the space around him. The eight-legged centipede was dumbfounded to see Bao Chang disappear. Although the eight-legged centipede was a peak 4th grade human supreme, his sensitivity to space was very low. In other words, he did not know where Bao Chang was. Should we help the eight-legged centipede? Beside Ningyu, the Dark Emperor was a little anxious. No matter what, the eight-legged centipede was on his side. The Dark Emperor naturally did not want him to be in danger. It's fine. A mere peak 4th grade human supreme can't kill the eight-legged centipede. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that the Dark Emperor did not need to worry. Ha ha! Can't kill the eight-legged centipede? How naive! Bao Chang's strength can be ranked in the top 10 of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Even ordinary 5th grade human supremes are not his match, let alone a 4th grade human supreme like the eight-legged centipede. Ningyu, hurry up and prepare to collect the eight-legged centipede's corpse. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.